Chapter 2506. Du Xiaofu was silent for a long time. Once the two of them left, it was very likely that they would never see each other again. It seems like the two of you have made up your minds. I will not keep you. However, when do you plan to leave? Du Xiaofu asked. The matter between the human race and the Beast Alliance has been settled. The grudge between the two sides has been resolved because of you. I have nothing to worry about. The Emperor of the Ancients said, since that's the case, let's go now. The old lady nodded in agreement. She took Du Xiaoqing's hand, her eyes filled with reluctance. Turning around, the old lady said to Du Xiaofu, I'll leave Xiaoqing in your care. I'm afraid the Bai Fang tribe and the Beast Alliance will have to trouble you in the future. Don't worry, Senior. As long as I can do it, I won't hesitate. Du Xiaofu said in a low voice. Let's go, let's go. You're already so old. Why are you still dawdling? The Emperor of the Ancients scolded jokingly. He took one last look at the majestic sacred palace. His wrinkled face flashed with a strong sense of parting. That was the place he had dedicated his entire life to. Slowly retracting his gaze, the Emperor of the Ancients' eyes emitted a dazzling radiance. His hunched body slowly straightened. At that moment, his body, which was already on the verge of death, became incomparably tall and sturdy. It was as if he could hold up the sky. A vast aura erupted from his body. Rays of light shot out, making him as dazzling as the sun. It was as if a deity had descended to the world. He placed one hand behind his back and pointed his other hand at the sky. Softly he uttered a word. However, it was like a thunderclap that exploded suddenly. Open! Boom! High in the sky, an invisible force exploded, destroying everything. The loud explosion caused the entire world to tremble. The blue sky was falling, the thick earth was shaking, and the rivers and rivers were standing up. Wherever the Emperor of the Ancients pointed, a terrifying crack appeared in the void. It was like the giant mouth of a demon god or a door to a dark abyss. It loomed over the heads of countless living beings, sending chills down their spines. Within it, the energy of yin and yang poured out. The power of gods and demons was vast and mighty. Endless lightning surged and roared, as if the end of the world was coming. Waves of strange auras surged out from the spatial rifts in the sky. Such an aura was completely different from that of this world. To all the living beings present, it was an unprecedented feeling. Kid, I'll leave the human race to you. The ancient emperor warned Du Xiaofu one last time. Then, he waved his sleeves and took a step forward. In a flash, his figure disappeared from the spot and entered the crack in the void. Looking at this scene, the patriarchs of the 7 great clans were all in high spirits. At the same time, tears streamed down their old faces. It was as if they had returned to countless years ago. As young prodigies, they had witnessed the endless glory of the human emperor, who led the entire human race to glory. The ancient ancestor of the Bai Fang clan patted Du Xiaoqing's head. Then, without any reluctance, he staggered forward and shouted, "Let's go!" His old figure flew high into the sky and entered the spatial crack with the ancient emperor of the human race. Farewell, ancient emperor. All the humans knelt down and shouted in unison. Farewell, patriarch. The dozen or so young powerhouses of the Beast Alliance also sent the old lady off. At this moment, almost everyone understood that they were about to leave. And once they left, they might not see each other again. Du Xiaofu stared at the sky. Vaguely, he heard a mocking voice from the rolling thunder. The two of us have been fighting for our entire lives. Who would have thought that when we were about to die, not only would we be able to put on a show so tacitly, but we would also be able to travel together. How wonderful is life! Ha! That voice was accompanied by carefree and heroic laughter. Then, it gradually faded away until it completely dispersed. Countless people knelt on the ground and watched as the huge spatial crack slowly closed. The yin and yang energies flowed and intertwined. Gradually, they were annihilated. The lightning also dissipated. In the end, heaven and earth were cleared, revealing the pure blue sky. It was crystal clear and lovely. Everything returned to normal. However, the two trembling figures were nowhere to be seen. Many powerhouses of the human race were extremely disappointed. Du Xiaoqing's beautiful cheeks were also streaked with tears. Xiaoqing, don't be sad. The two seniors have gone to the outside world. Perhaps they can obtain an opportunity that has never been seen in this world and extend their lifespans. If that's the case, there will be a day when we can see them again. Du Xiaofu said with a smile as he wiped away the tears on Du Xiaoqing's face. Half of that sentence was to comfort her, and the other half was to express hope and anticipation. One had to know that the Great Thousand World was vast and boundless, and it contained too many mysteries. For example, in the world that he was in, even people like the Master of 3000 Cosmos and the Dragon God would be suppressed and unable to use their full cultivation. Perhaps the ancient emperor and Xiaoqing could really obtain a way to extend their lifespans when they went to the other worlds. Even though this hope was extremely slim. Even so, Du Xiaofu was still willing to keep a little hope in his heart. Xiaofu, it's time for the journey to the ancient wilderness ominous grounds to end. Du Tingxian said as he walked to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded and said leisurely, "Everyone, return to the desolate country first. I still have some things to do." He looked at the huge sage palace. There were things left behind by the ancestors of the human race. He still wanted to go in and comprehend them. Oh, right. Du Xiaofu suddenly slapped his forehead and cursed himself for being so foolish. With a wave of his hand, the ancient wilderness space opened up, and a tall young man in a cloud robe walked out. "Third uncle, third brother." After the young man appeared, he greeted Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaojing, and the others. He was Du Yunlong, whom Du Xiaofu had rescued from the Gulan Heavenly Condor clan. At that time, Du Xiaofu had used the soul-searching skill to find out about the turmoil in the Beast Alliance. He had rushed over in a hurry. Since his second brother was in a strange state, he could only keep him in the ancient wilderness space to deal with him later. After that, the human race met with Yu family's rebellion, and Du Xiaofu anxiously ran to the sacred hall. After a while, she had forgotten about her second brother. Only now did she remember him. Second brother. Du Xiaofu scratched the back of his head and smiled apologetically. At the same time, he noticed the huge changes in his second brother's body and could not help but be shocked. He's at the peak of the initial stage of the Sage Realm. He'll be in the middle stage of the Sage Realm if he takes another step forward. Du Yunlong's body was filled with an extremely terrifying aura. He stood there as if he was a towering mountain. It was an incomparably heavy aura. It was like a heavy weapon that carried an unparalleled majesty. Even if a storm hit him, he would not move. At a glance, it made people feel as if they were looking up at a tall mountain. Du Xiaofu could see that his second brother had completely merged with the holy bell of desolation. His own cultivation base had also increased tremendously. Such a change naturally could not be hidden from Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, and the others. While the people of the desolate country were surprised, they were also very happy. Du Yunlong's strength had increased greatly. It was a good thing for the entire desolate country. As for the School of Agriculture, the School of Mo, the Confucian School, and the Phoenix tribe, they looked at each other speechlessly. Looking at the people around Du Xiaofu, their hearts were filled with endless emotions. Du Xiaofu, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Ouyang Shuang, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoqing, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaohuang. The 18 heavenly guards, the desolate country's guardian saint, the heavenly beast hall's guardian saint, and the golden-winged rock tribe. There was also Zhen Qingchun, Dai Xingyu, Lei Tianhuang, Lei Yang, Di Lang, Zhong Yuan, and so on. Not to mention, he also had Dongli Qingqing, Qi Yeshi, Zi Xian, Yi Zijin, Su Muxin, Sima Muhan, and other close female friends gathered around him. They played the role of threading the needle for the friendship between the desolate country and the other forces. Once upon a time, the desolate country's forces had developed to such an extent that they had completely left the top forces, which had been passed down for countless years, far behind. That young man in a purple robe had indeed created a great undertaking that left people flabbergasted. "We are all so old." The School of Agriculture's elder Di Pai let out a long sigh, filled with endless emotions. If this continues, we old fellows will be easily surpassed by the young people. The Phoenix tribe's St. Feng Chi's gaze was unhurried as he said with longing, "If we can survive after the great calamity, I also want to go outside. Perhaps in the outside world, they could pry into an even more profound realm. There will be a chance." Du Xiaofu said. No matter how terrifying the demon god was, he, Du Xiaofu, could not be defeated. This was because behind him were many loved ones, countless citizens of the desolate country, all of the human race here, and countless friends. All of this required him to protect with his life. "Grand Shaman, the matter here has been settled. We will return first." Meng Qianhe of the Confucian school stepped forward and bowed to Du Xiaofu. Subsequently, the School of Agriculture, the School of Moism, the School of Yinyang, the School of Taoism, the School of Fengji, the Phoenix tribe, and the golden-winged Great Ping tribe also stepped forward one after another to bid farewell to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu did not dare to be arrogant and hurriedly returned the greetings one by one. "Everyone, please go ahead. I will definitely pay you a visit to thank you for your help this time." When everyone saw this, they did not say anything else and took to the air one after another. The trip to the ancient desolate ominous grounds had benefited all sides greatly. It could be said that they had reaped a bountiful harvest. In particular, the removal of the suppression between heaven and earth had allowed many of the younger generation to grow rapidly, and many of them had broken through to the saint realm. "Let's go as well." Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Zhen Qingchun, and the rest of the desolate country also left. At Du Xiaofu's behest, Lei Tianhuang also went with them. Lei Yang, Pai Yuan, and the others stayed behind. After sending away the Ji clan, Sun clan, Jiang clan, Lu clan, and countless other humans, Du Xiaofu finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Senior, I would like to enter the sage hall to meditate." Du Xiaofu cupped his fists and said to the previous human emperor. Chapter 2507. Now that you're the human emperor, you can naturally enter the divine palace at any time to comprehend what our ancestors left behind. The previous human emperor smiled. Although he looked like a middle-aged man, he should be addressed as the old emperor now. Du Xiaofu nodded and prepared to go to the divine palace. At this moment, he was halfway there when he paused in midair. He turned his head and looked at a certain spot in the sky, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. "If you've seen enough, come out. Although I'm very handsome, there's no need to peek at me all the time, right?" Du Xiaofu asked frivolously. The old emperor standing beside him was stunned. He looked at the young man in front of him suspiciously, not knowing why he suddenly said such a thing. But then, a seductive female voice sounded in their ears. "Yes, I just can't get enough of you." As the voice fell, a woman with a voluptuous figure walked out of the void. The woman wore a tight red robe with slits on both sides that extended all the way to her thighs. As she walked, her waist swayed, and a snowy figure appeared behind her. It was hard to look away. This seductive woman was Han Ji, whom Du Xiaofu met in the burial ground and went to the tomb of Heavenly Tao with him. "Why are you here?" Du Xiaofu quickly looked away and asked. It had been several months since they last met. He didn't expect Han Ji to appear in the divine palace at this time. Han Ji's red lips curled up as she walked to Du Xiaofu's side and smiled seductively. "I heard that you've caused a huge ruckus in the Beast Alliance and then came here aggressively to stir up a storm. I want to see the new human emperor's peerless glory." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu understood. Han Ji had probably arrived a long time ago. She wouldn't be later than his alcoholic father and the others. However, she had been hiding in the dark, quietly watching without making a move. "What do you plan to do next?" Du Xiaofu asked. The soul concubine was formed from the remnant souls of countless ancient experts. She had gained sentience and had always stayed in the heaven burial deathland. Now that the suppression of heaven and earth had disappeared, she naturally wouldn't continue to stay there. When she heard Du Xiaofu's question, Han Ji stood on her tiptoes and put her face next to his ear. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was soft and sweet. Her breath smelled like orchids. "I only know you. Of course I'll follow you in the future." In front of him, a pair of plump jade-like breasts were on the verge of popping out, directly sticking to Du Xiaofu's face. A delicate fragrance drilled into his lungs, refreshing his mind. Du Xiaofu hurriedly jumped away in embarrassment, but he could not help but sniffle, showing that he was savoring the aftertaste. This action caused the sole concubine to giggle. Her two white balls rippled and trembled as if they were trying to break free from their shackles and jump out. Du Xiaofu had a guilty conscience. He glanced at the old human sovereign, who was standing on the other side, and felt embarrassed. Cough cough. Well, you guys talk first. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. The old human sovereign coughed dryly and turned around in embarrassment. Then, he did not dare to stay for a moment and quickly fled. Don't make fun of me. Tell me your real thoughts. Du Xiaofu spread out his hands and said to the sole concubine. No matter what, he and she could be considered as acquaintances. Moreover, she had helped him before. Naturally, Du Xiaofu also had a little bit of concern in his heart. But, you don't want to take me in? The sole concubine giggled and once again pounced on Du Xiaofu. Her proud breasts kept rubbing against his arm, which was incomparably seductive. You are such a great beauty, and a beauty with extraordinary strength. Although the world is big, where can you not go? Why do you need me to take you in? Du Xiaofu laughed and touched his nose. He did not dare to provoke the woman in front of him. One had to know that she was a monster who had lived for God knows how many years. She had long become a spirit. Moreover, if that tomboy Ouyang Shuang found out, she would definitely break his legs. The sole concubine curled her lips and stopped teasing him. She only said indifferently, I'm not joking. You have really made me look at you in a new light, so I've decided to follow you from now on. Really? Then it's a deal. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and hurriedly said. His eyes were fixed on the sole concubine, as if he was afraid that she would go back on her word. He knew that the strength of the woman in front of him was probably not inferior to the Yu family's old emperor. If she could walk together with the desolate country, it would be a great help in the war against the devil religion in the future. This kind of result was indeed something that one could not wish for. It's a deal, the sole concubine said with a charming smile, her beautiful eyes flashing with an inexplicable brilliance. Although she had not interacted much with this kid, the few times they had interacted made the sole concubine feel that this kid was really extraordinary. At the same time, she was even more certain that when they had first met and joined forces to deal with Gu Ying, they had definitely been tricked by this kid. All right then, I want to enter the divine temple to meditate. Why don't you go to the desolate country first? Du Xiaofu said. No need, I'll wait for you outside. The sole concubine stroked her hair and said. Du Xiaofu nodded. Since she was willing to wait, then he would let her have her way. Without hesitation, Du Xiaofu turned around and faced the divine temple building that towered into the clouds. Let's enter the divine temple. Looking at the incomparably majestic building, Du Xiaofu suddenly shouted in a deep voice that shook the 9 heavens. The human emperor's seal rushed out from his body, and the imperial palace's dragon aura swept out. Numerous illusory golden dragons traversed the void and roared at the sky. Rumble. The huge divine temple trembled and let out a deafening rumble as light shot into the sky. Following that, the magnificent divine temple building slowly dimmed. It was simple and unadorned, like a huge stone tablet that stood quietly for a long time. On the stone tablet, numerous figures appeared, exuding a strong and vast aura. These figures were the human emperors who had left their names in the divine temple since ancient times. At the top, there were 2 figures standing side by side. They were the human race's sage and Du Xiaofu. Perhaps it was because the Yu family's old emperor had tried to forcibly refine the divine temple, but the aura of these illusory figures was much weaker now. Du Xiaofu strode forward, and in a flash, he went to the divine temple's huge door. He reached out and pressed his hand on the door, and a cold touch came from his palm. Golden light burst out from his hand and surged toward the divine temple's huge door. With Du Xiaofu's strength, the door was slowly pushed open. What entered his eyes was darkness, and he could not see any details. There was only an aura of vicissitudes that had settled down for countless years. Tap, tap, tap. Du Xiaofu walked into the divine temple, and his footsteps echoed in the dark and quiet building, producing clear and crisp sounds. Behind him, the divine temple's door closed on its own, causing Du Xiaofu to instantly fall into complete darkness. Chapter 2508. In the darkness, with Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, he couldn't see anything clearly, which made him feel a little surprised. Du Xiaofu released the power of his primordial spirit. A huge shadow of a red-bone horse monkey was above his head, fluctuating with a terrifying aura. The peak of the Five Fingers Mountain appeared, and golden light shot out in all directions. Boom! After the power of his primordial spirit was released, the golden light was like a raging fire. The air here was ignited in an instant, and the surging flames made Du Xiaofu feel as if he was in a sea of fire. The golden flames burned fiercely, causing the space to collapse and incinerate everything. At the same time, it also burned the true face of this space. Du Xiaofu focused his gaze and saw a huge stone wall standing in front of him. As for himself, he was at the foot of the stone wall and looked incomparably small. Gently exhaling, Du Xiaofu slowly withdrew the power of his primordial spirit back into his body. The stone wall in front of him was still in front of him, but it did not return to darkness. On the stone wall, there were mottled carvings, crisscrossing and flowing with the traces of time. However, these carvings exuded an extraordinary aura. It was majestic and made one feel awe-inspiring just by looking at it. Du Xiaofu retreated, wanting to see the full picture of the stone wall. However, the stone wall was too big. No matter how far he retreated, he could not see it in its entirety. That is, Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. Standing in the distance, he realized that the seemingly irregular carvings formed a picture of a human. They were majestic and extraordinary, making people revere them. These are the ancestors of the human race who left their names in the temple. Du Xiaofu realized that the human-shaped pictures and the phantoms imprinted on the temple were the same in terms of aura and momentum. Therefore, he concluded that this must be the result of the ancestors leaving their names in the temple. In order to verify this idea, Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and looked at the top of the stone wall. If he guessed correctly, there should be the imprint of the human clan's sage and himself. However, the result disappointed him slightly. He didn't see the two figures he expected to see in the area his gaze swept over. However, this did not bother Du Xiaofu too much. Indeed, I should take a good look at what the ancestors of the human race left behind. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself with a deep gaze. Since ancient times, the human race had produced many human emperors, but there were very few who could leave their names in the divine temple. From this, one could see how extraordinary they were. Since he was already here, how could he not properly comprehend it? Without any hesitation, Du Xiaofu sat down on the ground with his legs crossed. He slightly closed his eyes and released the red horse monkey's primordial spirit towards those human ancestor patterns. At the instant he came into contact with the stone wall, Du Xiaofu's origin spirit was drawn by a strange force with a whoosh, directly entering a mysterious state. At this moment, the stone wall began to emit light, indicating how extraordinary it was. Those human-shaped patterns fluctuated with a strong divine charm as if they were about to come to life. It was also at this moment that a middle-aged man with a dignified face walked out of the void and arrived beside Du Xiaofu. This middle-aged man was the previous human emperor of the human race. He actually entered a state of comprehension so quickly, this kid, looking at the changes on the stone wall and then looking at the motionless Du Xiaofu, the old human emperor could not help but be dumbfounded. This stone wall was hidden in the space of the divine temple and was also something left behind by the human clan sage. Through the continuous efforts of generations of outstanding emperors, they left behind an indelible imprint on it as the inheritance for the human race to reproduce and prosper. Countless humans entered the divine temple to cultivate and comprehend. Once they could comprehend what the ancient ancestors left behind, even if it was only bits and pieces, it could allow them to advance triumphantly in their future cultivation path and become a top powerhouse of the human race. However, it wasn't easy to gain anything from this place. Without sufficient comprehension ability and talent, even if one sat for a lifetime, they would only end up with nothing. As expected of someone who left his name in the divine temple and could stand shoulder to shoulder with the sage, he is indeed extraordinary. After recovering from his shock, the old human emperor could only sigh. When he first came here, it took him a whole month to figure out a clue. He resonated with one of the patterns of the human clan's ancestors and finally obtained a part of the inheritance. One had to know that he was the previous human emperor. Although his talent and comprehension ability could not compare to the ancestor who left his name in the divine temple, to be able to obtain the recognition of the human emperor's seal and eventually obtain the position of the human emperor, his strength was evident. It was just that Du Xiaofu's current performance was simply too inconceivable. Standing by the side, the old human emperor did not disturb him and only waited quietly. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was in an indescribably mysterious state. The moment his primordial spirit touched the stone wall, there was a mysterious force that entered his mind and merged with his mind. After carefully sensing it, he realized that this mysterious force was the lifetime comprehension of a human clan's ancestor. Vast amounts of information constantly impacted Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit and left a mark in his mind. As expected of the human clan's pioneer, these comprehensions are really from a high vantage point. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. Comparing the comprehension left by the human clan's ancestor with his own cultivation method, he benefited a lot. As his comprehension continued to be thorough, the light on the engraved pattern became brighter and brighter. In the end, it was extremely dazzling. A tyrannical pressure was emitted, and the momentum was so strong that even the old human emperor, who was standing beside Du Xiaofu, could not help but take a step back. You comprehended it so quickly? This scene caused the old human emperor to be stunned once again. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. With Du Xiaofu's current strength and cultivation, there was not much difference between him and the human clan's ancestor. Therefore, it wasn't difficult for him to fully comprehend it. Next, Du Xiaofu did not linger. The power of his primordial spirit moved decisively and surged toward the next engraved pattern. On the stone wall, another pattern gradually lit up, and the light shone in all directions, dazzling everyone's eyes. Soon, the light of the pattern reached its peak and released a vast aura again. As the inheritance was comprehended, Du Xiaofu also realized that not all the comprehensions left by the seniors were useful to him. It seems that I have to speed up and only choose those that are useful to me to verify with what I have learned. Du Xiaofu secretly decided. As he thought about it, the power of his primordial spirit did not stop and continued to comprehend. Then, one engraved pattern after another was lit up. In the end, the entire stone wall flickered like a lantern. For a moment, the old human emperor was speechless. Chapter 2509. In ancient times, there had been many geniuses among the human race who looked down on the world. But even the experts who were able to leave their names in the divine temple could not be like Du Xiaofu, comprehending the insights of the ancestors one by one. Even those outstanding emperors who left their names in the divine temple could not do that. Most importantly, the speed of his comprehension was so fast that it was terrifying. It was no wonder. If he was not so extraordinary, how could the ancient ancestor of the Baifeng clan and the ancient emperor of the human race see him in a different light and favor him so much? Could this kid really reach the same height as the ancient sage? The old emperor could not help but mumble to himself. After a series of changes in the ancient desolate fearsome grounds, the old emperor had learned many secrets and had a certain understanding of the outside world. The great calamity of heaven and earth was coming. In such an era, there would definitely be an extraordinary person who could compete with the demon god. Only this new emperor, who was on par with the ancient sage when he left his name in the divine temple, had the hope of leading the people to fight against the devil religion. Regardless of the final result, whether or not this kid could pacify this world and turn the tide, what was certain was that he would be able to rise against the trend and stand at the top of this world. He might even grow to become the most powerful person in the world and catch up to the miracle created by the ancient sage of the human race. The old emperor was looking forward to it. Rumble. Just as he was thinking, there was a new change on the stone wall in front of him. An earth-shattering roar sounded, and the huge stone wall began to tremble. At this time, Du Xiaofu opened his eyes and looked over. The marks of the ancestors of the human race that were outlined by the carvings burst out a bright light at the same time, causing Du Xiaofu to feel a stinging pain in his eyes. This light carried with it an incomparably high temperature, as if it was going to melt the space around it. Even with Du Xiaofu's cultivation, in this kind of scorching heat, he couldn't help but sweat profusely from his forehead and trickle down his cheeks. The old emperor, who was standing at the side, was the same. Divinity show. Is this the legendary divinity show? Is the ancient sage about to show himself? Such a scene made the old emperor's expression change drastically, revealing a look of horror. Then, it turned into endless excitement, and his tone became messy. May I ask, Senior, what is the divinity show? Du Xiaofu, who was under the strong light, narrowed his eyes and asked the old emperor. At this time, the old emperor's divinity show, he did not care about his question. Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu stared at him for a long while. Du Xiaofu In's was divinity show on the divinity show. Along, the light was divinity light, on. There was no pattern to this kind of surging, but after a long time, it could be seen that the light was like ink on a painting that could self-assemble, gradually condensing into two figures that were as tall as mountains. Behind them, the light on the stone wall gradually faded away. The two figures seemed to have been painted on the wall. Their appearances and postures were clearly displayed in front of the two of them. They were exceptionally lifelike. The figure on the left had an extremely dignified expression. His body was emitting a terrifying aura, as if he was a high and mighty deity as high as the heavens, looking down on all living things in the world. Waves of terrifying pressure spread out, causing the void to twist and tremble. The person on the right was dressed in a purple robe, and his body rippled with a purple-gold light. It was Du Xiaofu's image. Looking at the figure on the left, the old man emperor's eyes flashed with deep reverence. He immediately bowed to the ground without saying a word. Greetings, sage ancestor. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's heart was in turmoil. His emotions were surging, and he found it difficult to restrain himself. He stared at the figure on the left side of the stone wall in front of him. His eyes stared blankly as if he had lost his mind. He knew that this was the divinity manifestation that the old sovereign had mentioned. In other words, it was the manifestation of a sage. However, what made him unable to calm down was the appearance of the human race's sage. That face had been deeply imprinted in the depths of his mind, and it was impossible for him to forget it forever. This was because the human race's sage ancestor was the ancestor of his Du family. Before his death, he had been the heavenly Tao of this world. His heart pounded violently against Du Xiaofu's chest, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. His knees involuntarily fell to the ground, tears streaming down his face. This descendant of the Du family greets the forefather. In the tomb of heaven and earth, Du Xiaofu had returned to the upper reaches of the river of time and seen the true face of his ancestor. He'd thought that he'd never have the chance to see the forefather's peerless glory again. Who would have thought that he'd be able to see the forefather's sage ancestor again in the sacred temple of the human race? Du Xiaofu couldn't help but be thrilled. Although Du Xiaofu had witnessed the forefather sage's extraordinariness when he'd left his name in the sacred temple, he hadn't realized it because the figure and face were so blurry. It was hard to imagine that the forefather sage ancestor wasn't only the forefather sage of this world, but also the forefather sage of the human race. The old emperor and Du Xiaofu didn't rise for a long, long time. One bowed, the other knelt. However, the old emperor slowly recovered from his agitation and straightened his back, casting his gaze toward the forefather sage's figure. Then, as if he'd thought of something, he jerked his head and stared incredulously at the kneeling Du Xiaofu. What did you just say? The forefather of the Du family? The old emperor looked at Du Xiaofu, then at the forefather sage. His gaze darted back and forth between the two, uncertainty written all over his face. When he heard the old emperor's question, Du Xiaofu suppressed his emotions and slowly rose to his feet. Without looking at the old emperor, he nodded affirmatively. Looking at the forefather sage's towering figure, he said, "I was fortunate enough to witness the forefather sage's peerless heroism in a special space-time. I can't be wrong. However, I didn't know that the forefather sage ancestor was also the forefather sage of the human race." The old emperor was speechless. He couldn't imagine that Du Xiaofu was the descendant of the forefather sage of the human race. This was actually true. However, this fact just so happened to explain a lot of things. No wonder the people of the Du family were so ferocious. Based on what he'd seen, all of them were the top powerhouses in this world. In addition, when Du Xiaofu left his name in the sacred temple, he'd reached an unprecedented height. The mark he'd left on the sacred temple could stand shoulder to shoulder with the forefather sage of the human race. Also, this kid had easily been recognized by the human emperor's seal and refined it, becoming the only person in the history of the human race to refine the human emperor's seal. Perhaps, only those who had the same blood as the previous sage could do such a thing. At this time, the old emperor finally believed what Du Xiaofu had said. Chapter 25:11. Senior, do you know what the heavenly saint realm is? Du Xiaofu suddenly asked the old man emperor. As everyone knew in this world, the highest realm a living being could reach was the heavenly saint realm. The heavenly saint realm was divided into early, middle, late, complete, and the final heavenly saint realm. According to Du Xiaofu's speculation, perhaps the heavenly saint realm was to comprehend the rules and order of heaven and earth, and achieve a breakthrough from there. At that time, it would be a whole new world of cultivation. After the primordial war, the living beings in the outside world were greatly suppressed. Even breaking through to the heavenly saint realm had become impossible, let alone the final heavenly saint realm. Relatively speaking, it was different in the ancient wilderness fearsome lands. Although there were certain restrictions here, there were still countless living beings who had stepped into the heavenly saint realm. Perhaps the old man emperor had some understanding of the ultimate realm of the heavenly saint realm. Heavenly saint realm? However, when he heard Du Xiaofu's question, the old man emperor was stunned. He then shook his head and said emotionally, that realm only exists in the legends passed down from the primordial age. For countless years, no one in the ancient wilderness fearsome lands could reach it. Perhaps, only people like the human race's ancestors could touch it. Du Xiaofu nodded. He was not disappointed because he did not get an answer. Right now, the suppression of this world had just been removed. Currently, no one had reached the heavenly saint realm. At least until now, Du Xiaofu had not had the chance to see a powerhouse of this realm. However, he did not know if the dragons, the phoenixes, the golden-winged rocks, and other great clans that had existed since the primordial age would have hidden some old monsters of the heavenly saint realm as the deepest foundation of their clans. However, even if there were, no matter how they hid it, such existences were definitely rare and could be counted with one's fingers. Just as he was about to ask the old emperor for some advice, he glanced around and saw Hun Ji striding towards him from afar. She was striding towards him with her long, snow-white legs. Du Xiaofu smiled. This woman of extraordinary origins was really waiting outside the temple. It seemed that she really did intend to travel with him. Soul Concubine's body was fiery, and her waist twisted like a snake. Her legs intertwined as she walked, bringing with them a boundlessly enchanting scenery that flickered in and out of existence. What followed was a languid and seductive voice. "What you want to know, I do know some of it from my memory fragments." "You know?" Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh." Soul concubines were formed from the remnant souls of countless ancient powerhouses. It was normal for them to retain some memories. Although Du Xiaofu didn't find it strange, he couldn't help but stare at her with great interest. Hun Ji smiled and stood beside Du Xiaofu. She stretched out her slender fingers and combed the hair in front of her forehead behind her ears. Then her red lips curled up slightly as she smiled. "Little fellow, although you're very good, the heavenly saint realm isn't that easy to reach. Am I such an arrogant person?" Du Xiaofu curled the corner of his mouth and spread his hands helplessly. Of course, He knew the principle of, the path of cultivation is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He did not dare to underestimate that realm. Instead of continuing to argue with him, Soul Concubine straightened her face and said seriously, "According to what I know, only by comprehending the power of profundity and grasping a certain amount of the laws of heaven and earth can one reach the heavenly saint realm. At that time, one will be able to control the laws of the great path and use them for oneself. One's every movement will carry the charm of the great path. When fighting with others, one will no longer be restricted by mortal martial skills." As expected, Du Xiaofu punched his palm heavily. What Soul Concubine said was exactly as he had expected. The path of cultivation of a heavenly saint was indeed in the direction of comprehending the laws of heaven and earth. The difference between profundity and laws was that profundity was only a manifestation of laws. It was traceable. On the other hand, laws were formless and hard to grasp. Its mysteries were far more profound and vast than profundity. But Du Xiaofu's heart surged with a strong sense of confidence. His primordial spirit was engraved with the marks of laws, and he had also obtained the insights left behind by his ancestors in the sacred palace. These were the accumulations of his cultivation path. There would be a day when he would be able to take that step with his accumulated strength. "You human brat, you seem to be full of confidence. Big sister has high hopes for you." Soul Concubine threw a seductive look at Du Xiaofu and giggled. At the same time, two soft lumps kept rubbing against his arm, sending waves of softness to the touch. Du Xiaofu's entire body trembled and hurriedly suppressed the throbbing in his heart. This woman was really asking for his life. But Du Xiaofu knew that this seemingly delicate and beautiful jasper flower had thorns. Looking at it from afar was fine, but if one dared to reach out to pick it, it might stab you ruthlessly. Cough, cough. The old emperor coughed dryly and turned his head away, reaching out to pretend to wipe his sweat, indicating that he did not see anything. Du Xiaofu tugged at his sleeves and returned to the topic at hand. "Not to mention now, even if I reach the heavenly sage realm, I'm afraid it's not enough to deal with the devil religion's calamity and contend with the fiend celestials." The old emperor and Soul Concubine nodded at the same time. And Du Xiaofu, who had crossed the river of time and witnessed the primordial war, was even more deeply aware of the terror of the fiend celestials. Just like his ancestors, as the heavenly Tao of a world, they could only suppress the fiend celestials but could not kill them. To defeat the fiend celestials, one had to at least surpass the heavenly sage realm and step into a higher realm. As for after the heavenly sage realm, Holy Laozu had once said to Du Xiaofu, "Once the heavenly sage realm is completed, one will reach the heavenly Tao." This height was too far away. Perhaps only the masters of the 3,000 vast worlds, the dragon god, the fiend celestials, and the like would know everything. Thinking of this, the three of them fell into silence at the same time. "Senior, the matter here is done, I should go back and take a look. For the time being, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the human race." Du Xiaofu did not think too much, turned around, and cupped his fists at the old emperor. It had been a long time since he came to the ancient, desolate, fearsome grounds. This time, he still did not know how long he had been meditating in the divine temple. The outside world was constantly changing, and he did not know if the devil religion had any new movements recently, how was the fiend celestial's recovery, and whether anything major had happened in the desolate country. All these things made Du Xiaofu feel uneasy. "Kid, you just willingly took over the throne of the human emperor, and now you're going to be a hands-off shopkeeper?" The old emperor scolded jokingly. Du Xiaofu blushed. Over the years, he was really used to being a hands-off shopkeeper. Seeing this, the old emperor smiled gently and no longer teased him. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, I will take care of the human race. The burden on your shoulders is heavier than anyone else's." Du Xiaofu returned a grateful look and was about to bid farewell to the old emperor. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and his eyes swept around the square. In a short while, the three of them heard the sound of wind breaking, and immediately, many figures flew in from all directions and landed on the square in front of the divine temple. These people were old and young, men and women. "Greetings, old emperor." Greetings, human emperor. After the crowd arrived, they bowed to the old emperor and Du Xiaofu in unison. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept over them, and he learned everyone's identity. These people were from the Ji clan, the Sun clan, the Jiang clan, the Feng clan, the Ren clan, the Yao clan, and the First clan. There were also people from the Lu clan. However, he did not see his disciple Lin Feng. Human emperor, this old man has a presumptuous request. The Ji family's old ancestor Ji Tsong stepped forward and bowed to Du Xiaofu. Senior Ji, there is no need to be so polite. What is the matter? Please speak frankly. Du Xiaofu did not act arrogantly and returned the greeting to old ancestor Ji Tsong. These families were the pillars of the human race, and their loyalty to the human race had been verified by the Yu family's rebellion. No matter what enmity he had with them in the past, he still respected them from the bottom of his heart. Because we have guarded the ancient desolate continent for thousands of years, there have been countless changes recently, and we only know how big the world is. We only hope that Human Emperor can lead the young disciples of our family to the outside world to gain experience and broaden their horizons. Old ancestor Ji Tsong said. Du Xiaofu smiled when he heard this. To be honest, in terms of cultivation, the living beings of the outside world were not as good as the ancient desolate fearsome lands before the suppression of heaven and earth dissipated. However, in terms of greatness and vastness, this place could only be considered a small corner of the world. No problem. I will bring them to the desolate country first. As for the path after that, it is up to them. I will not interfere. Du Xiaofu said. The leaders of the 7 families were delighted when they saw this. We have the same intention. Since that is the case, we will have to trouble the human emperor. Feng Wanran of the Feng family said. Du Xiaofu also knew that the older generation was really considerate. Although they said that they were troubling him, they were actually letting the younger generation of their family follow behind him and contribute to the desolate country. Du Xiaofu didn't point it out, but kept this sentiment in his heart. The outside world is in turmoil, and we're facing danger at any time. However, it does bring us more training. If you're willing to go, follow me. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he cupped his hands at the old emperor and said, "Farewell." Then, he tore open a spatial tunnel and entered it with Hunji. In the square, the younger generation of the 7 families looked at each other and did not dare to hesitate. They scrambled to be the first to follow. Sun Qin of the Sun family, Jiang Yiting of the Jiang family, Feng Wucha of the Feng family, Ren Yuan of the Ren family, Yao Tianwu of the Yao family, First Hero of the First family, Lu Limo, Lu Mingma, and Lu Yinma of the Lu family were all among them. Originally, Ji Qianxing of the Ji family's younger generation was the first. However, due to fighting for Du Xiaowang's phoenix egg in the burial deathly grounds, he and Ji Zhen were killed by Du Xiaofu. At this time, the Ji family also had a young lady with flowing red hair. Her name was Ji Qianyue. Looking at the space passage slowly closing and concealing the figures of more than a dozen young experts, the eyes of the ancestors and patriarchs present were filled with eager anticipation. As for the old lady of the Jiang family, an imperceptible sigh flashed across her eyes. She really regretted not agreeing to that kid's excessive request back then. Chapter 25:12. The ancient barren ominous grounds was the ancient barren continent of the tricontinent Kyushu. This place was separated from the barren country by thousands of mountains and rivers. Of course, with the strength of Du Xiaofu and the rest, traveling through the space tunnel was faster than traveling through a wormhole. If everything went smoothly, this trip would not take up too much of their time. However, not long after they left the sacred palace, Du Xiaofu suddenly stopped and jumped out of the space tunnel. Then, Hunji's expression changed slightly and she turned around. The two's actions confused Sun Qin, Jiang Yiting, Lu Limo, Ji Qianyue, and the rest of the younger generation of the human race. Out of confusion, they also stopped and followed him. Whoosh! Without the protection of the group of saints, the space tunnel was destroyed in the blink of an eye and disappeared into the vast void. At the same time, Du Xiaofu, Hunji, and more than 10 people appeared in the sky above a mountain stream. A crescent moon hung above their heads. This mountain stream was narrow, long, and deep, like a deep ravine that had been carved out by a sharp blade. The stone walls on the left and right were like two huge barriers that rose to the sky. Above them, the vegetation was lush and green. Colorful jasper flowers bloomed and swayed with the breeze. The moonlight shone down from the sky and shone on the colorful flowers, reflecting a faint sense of tranquility. It was beautiful beyond compare. When Lu Limo, Jiang Yiting, and the rest appeared, they felt refreshed by this picturesque scene. However, in the next moment, everyone's expression changed. This was because, along with the faint fragrance of the flowers, there was a pungent smell of rotting corpses that attacked everyone's sense of smell. Something's not right. The aura here is indescribably eerie. It's very strange. Yao Tianwu of the Yao family frowned and said in a low voice, "Emperor, should we go down and take a look?" Ren Yuan of the Ren family looked at Du Xiaofu and asked. Du Xiaofu nodded and said, "Let's go." The group of people flew down one after another and landed on the ground in the mountain stream that was covered with weeds. Creak. Lu Limo's younger brother, Lu Mingyamo, gently took a step forward, but a sound came from beneath his feet. "Brother Rock Emperor, under this patch of weeds, there's actually a ground full of bones." Profound energy was emitted from the tip of Lu Mingma's feet and spread out into a fan shape. Like a gigantic shovel, it sent the grass in front of him flying. What followed were withered black creatures' bones that danced in the air one after another. Du Xiaofu stretched out his palm. His energy erupted and sucked a leg bone into his palm. This is the leg bone of a demonic beast. Du Xiaofu rubbed his thumb slightly, and the black matter on the bones fell off, revealing the grayish-white bones. This black substance is the flesh of living creatures. It must have attached itself to the bones because of the loss of blood essence. It hasn't been corroded yet. The number one hero stood out and said, "That's right. The luster on the bones has all disappeared, and they have become grayish-white. These creatures seem to have died because of the loss of their life essence." Feng Wuche said, "Let's go and take a look in front." After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, a faint golden light emitted from his body as he flew into the distance. As the group moved forward, they realized that the deeper they went, the shallower the bones on the ground were. In the end, they saw the corpses of living creatures that had just died. There were humans and beasts. These living creatures had died in the same way. They had all lost their blood essence, and even their souls seemed to have been sucked away. Only their shriveled bodies were left. They had died extremely miserably. Based on visual estimation, there are at least 1,000 corpses here. Han Ji pursed her red lips and said, "Who is so cruel to suck their blood essence and souls?" Lu Mingma was pure and kind. Seeing such a situation, he couldn't help but speak out angrily. Could it be the devil religion's doing? Du Xiaofu guessed, and his brows knitted together. For such a cruel act, other than the devil religion's people, he couldn't think of anyone else. Just as everyone was still thinking, a burst of creepy laughter floated down from the sky. You humans came at the right time. Killing you will allow my strength to improve further." This laughter floated in all directions, sometimes east and sometimes west, making it difficult for people to detect where it came from. Pretending to be mysterious, Du Xiaofu snorted, then raised his fist and suddenly punched towards a certain spot in the void. Boom! A domineering force swept out, and a thick thunderbolt cut through the night sky, tearing a terrifying crack in the void that extended 10 miles away. Naturally, a figure appeared in this crack. This figure didn't seem to have any intention of continuing to dodge. He openly faced Du Xiaofu and the others, standing in the air, and his throat constantly emitting a gloomy and strange laughter. His body was covered by a cloak, and it was filled with a bloody aura. The pitch-black hood covered his entire face, making it difficult for people to see his appearance. Seeing this figure, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but raise an eyebrow and say, "So it's you." Naturally, he knew this person. In recent years, this person had appeared several times and fought with him. In the Tomb of Eternity and the ancient barren fearsome grounds, this person had appeared before. However, Du Xiaofu didn't know where he came from and what kind of relationship he had with him. The only thing he was sure of was that he knew this person. Today, none of you can think about leaving. Then, he tilted his head to look into the void and said, "If you don't show up now, when will you?" As soon as he finished speaking, another figure appeared from the void. Similarly, this person's face was also covered by a hood. Only a pair of eyes could be seen, and they were glowing with a grayish-white light. Unlike the former, this person's aura carried an extremely thick bloody aura. "The two of you made such a big fuss, you must be waiting for me." Looking at these two people, Du Xiaofu said aloud. He had a feeling that these two people's actions were unusual. With their cultivation bases, they would definitely have been able to avoid him the moment he arrived. Therefore, they didn't show up because he accidentally bumped into this matter. You guessed right, we've been waiting for this day for too long. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. That's true. Since that's the case, let me see what kind of scoundrels you two are. Du Xiaofu didn't want to continue talking nonsense. If he wanted to know who they were, he could directly knock them down with his fist and take off their hood. Otherwise, there would be nothing to hide. Chapter 25:13. Du Xiaofu, times have changed. Do you really think you can hide the truth from the masses? The man in the robe who reeked of blood said in a low voice. His voice sounded very young. However, in those grayish-white eyes, there was a strange brilliance. As soon as he finished speaking, a thick blood-red light burst out from his body. In a flash, he appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. A pair of skinny palms reached out from under his sleeves. His fingers curled into claws and clawed downwards. A sinister aura spread out, and a dark blood-red light burst out. The pair of claws carried a ferocious aura as if they were going to steal one's soul. Other than Du Xiaofu and Hun Ji, the dozen or so young powerhouses of the human clan felt their souls tremble. They felt different degrees of impact and took a few steps back at the same time. "Everyone, retreat. I'll deal with them." Du Xiaofu snorted as he sent Lu Limo, Sun Qingjiang, Ying, Ren Yuan, and the others away. When he heard the other party say his name, he knew that his guess was right. These two people were definitely waiting for him here on purpose. It was very likely that they were people he was familiar with. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. The golden rock wings spread out behind him. Golden light shot out in all directions as he shouted, "Sky-shaking wings." Golden runes swirled as the wings slashed downwards, colliding directly with the pair of skinny palms. Boom, a terrifying energy burst out, and a loud boom rang out. The void shook. The man in the robe and Du Xiaofu retreated at the same time, each standing 100 feet away. Who is that person? He's so terrifying. He's evenly matched with the human emperor in their first clash. Could he be a powerhouse from some ancient faction? Feng Wuche, Ren Yuan, Yao Tianwu, and the #1 hero were all shocked. They knew about Du Xiaofu's cultivation. He was the one who killed the Beast Alliance's Patriarch Zhang Jie and Patriarch Feng San, as well as the human clan's Patriarch Yu. That mysterious expert was actually able to hold his own against him for a short period of time. Just what kind of background did he have? The Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Looks like this is all there is to it. The man in the robe and hat sneered. He moved his body again, and he clashed with Du Xiaofu. On the other side, the black-robed man who appeared first, he stood on the side with his arms crossed. He watched the two powerhouses, as if he had no intention of interfering. "I don't care who you are. Today I will uncover your true face." Sword breaking 10,000 miles. The purple heavenly palace appeared. Purple heavenly palace was purple heavenly palace do an unparalleled sword light formed. The azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise roared and attacked. The roars of the dragon, the tiger, the sparrow, and the turtle shook the void. The ferocious beasts twisted around the sword light and rushed toward the man in the robe and hat. Boundless blood massacre. The man in the robe and hat shouted. He raised his hands, palms facing up, and a murderous aura rolled out. In the mountain stream, the withered bones covered by weeds began to move. Endless death aura rose and quickly gathered, condensing toward the man in the robe and hat. Then, a bright black ball of light formed in front of him. Within it, countless evil ghost heads appeared. The hoarse cries of the evil spirits reverberated, as if they wanted to bite and devour everything. Boom! The dazzling sword light slashed down in the blink of an eye, colliding with the ball of light. As soon as the two came into contact, they crushed each other at the same time and then exploded. The mysterious runes, which carried a vast aura, tangled, bit, and devoured the evil spirits that broke out of the seal. The terrifying aura was mighty and mighty, forcing the two of them to retreat at the same time. As for Lu Mingma, Ji Chenyue, and the others, they retreated dozens of miles away, not daring to stay in the center of the battle. Du Xiaofu, if this is all you have, then it's too disappointing. The man in the robe and hat said faintly. His tone was a little disappointed. Is that so? If this is all you have, then everything can be over. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Although he said so, the shock in his heart was inevitable. He himself had obtained countless opportunities, which allowed him to be ranked among the first-class powerhouses. However, the person in front of him, who sounded very young, could easily take his 1,000-mile sword. This was truly inconceivable. Moreover, on the other side, there was still a man in a black robe who had not made a move yet. However, even so, Du Xiaofu was confident that he could defeat him quickly. Without further delay, Du Xiaofu waved his sleeve and put away the purple gold heavenly palace. Then he slowly raised a fist in front of him. He stood in the air, the golden wings of the rock flapping behind him, and did not do anything else. However, as he raised his fist, the Xian Qi in the heavenly palace rushed to his limbs and bones. An indescribable aura fluctuated from his body, which instantly covered the entire area. Evil spirits! When the man in the robe and hat saw this, he did not waste any more words. That pair of gray eyes surged with a ruthless and cold light. His body fluctuated with a treacherous aura, which affected some kind of invisible force in this area. The Yin Qi within a radius of hundreds of miles surged and gathered around the man in the robe and hat, quickly condensing into countless evil spirits and evil spirits. Chaotic and mournful screams echoed in the mountain stream, as if they wanted to drill into people's minds and devour their souls. The man in the robe and hat sneered and quickly rushed toward Du Xiaofu. His two palms turned into ghost claws, and he was about to give Du Xiaofu a fatal blow. However, in the next moment, when he was about 10 feet away from Du Xiaofu, the purple-robed youth's figure strangely disappeared in front of his eyes. This unforeseen event shocked the man in the robe and hat. However, before this surprise could really arise, he saw a ball of golden light explode in the void in front of him. Then, a fist without any aura swung out from the golden light and directly hit his body. Tyrannical fist way! A cold voice rang in the man's ears. Until now, he was still shocked by Du Xiaofu's sudden disappearance. And his body had been violently smashed by such a punch. Outside his body, countless evil spirits and evil spirits were destroyed in the golden light, purified by the righteous qi, and dissipated into nothingness. The man in the robe and hat's slender body was directly sent flying. A long arrow of blood spurted out from his mouth, nailing a hole in the void. Let me see what kind of god you are, you scoundrel! Du Xiaofu snorted coldly and did not stop. A pair of golden wings flapped violently, and his figure flew out and caught up with the man in the robe and hat. Du Xiaofu struck out again, and a terrible force swept out and hit the man's body. Swish! The robe exploded, and the man in the robe and hat was directly exposed to Du Xiaofu's eyes, which made his eyes suddenly focus. It's you. Chapter 25:14. While the opponent was unprepared, Du Xiaofu suddenly unleashed the first form of Fuyao. This was the supreme technique of the primordial golden-winged Great Peng Bird clan. It silently passed through the space barrier and took the opponent by surprise, destroying the attack that the man in the robe had been preparing. What followed was Du Xiaofu's palm, which shattered the robe that covered the man's face, revealing a pale, handsome face. Looking at this familiar yet strange face, Du Xiaofu was incomparably shocked and abruptly stared blankly for a moment. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the first black-robed man's feet flashed and he quickly captured the exposed man in the robe and brought him far away to prevent Du Xiaofu from killing him again. How can this be? Weren't you already dead? Du Xiaofu did not stop him, but stood in the air and said in disbelief. The man in front of him was tall and slender, and he was extraordinarily handsome. Du Xiaofu was very familiar with him. Although his aura was sinister and fierce now, and was completely different from before, Du Xiaofu still recognized him at a glance. This man was Dongli Qihuang, whom he had killed in front of countless people at the Great Luan sect. Du Xiaofu, I'm still alive. You didn't expect this, did you? Dongli Qihuang reached out to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth and laughed wildly. Although he had been caught off guard and suffered Du Xiaofu's attack, he did not seem to have suffered any serious injuries. The aura on his body was not any weaker than before. I was wondering who it was. In recent years, you have hidden your identity and attacked me several times. You have a strong sense of enmity. Du Xiaofu recovered from his initial shock and smiled faintly. Dongli Qihuang, so what if you're not dead? With your current appearance, you're still no match for me. It was obvious that the East mythical phoenix relied on consuming the blood and souls of living beings to gain its current dominating capabilities. Du Xiaofu, don't you think you're too arrogant? Beside Dongli Qihuang, the black-robed man said coldly. Two cold eyes shot out from under the hood. Who are you? Since you're so confident that you can defeat me, why are you hiding under the hood and not daring to show yourself? Du Xiaofu said with a smile. At this point, he could confirm with certainty that this person was definitely an old friend of his who had interacted with him before. The black-robed man was speechless. Dongli Qihuang's this life. Du Xiaofu, you're the one who destroyed everything I had and turned me into this. My motivation for me to Xiaofu is to defeat Ofu Xiaofu. Only in this way can I extinguish the hatred in my heart for you. Dongli Qihuang gritted his teeth and said. His eyes were full of murderous intent. He couldn't wait to tear Du Xiaofu into pieces. Even though his heart was full of hatred, he wasn't overly agitated. The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix believed that with its current strength, it definitely had the qualifications to fight Du Xiaofu head-on. If you want to kill me, I, Du Xiaofu, am always ready. Du Xiaofu said loudly. The grudge between him and Dongli Qihuang was irreversible. It would not end until one of them was dead. Du Xiaofu's eyes were solemn. He glanced at the skeletons in the narrow valley and said, Since you dare to wait for me here, you must have absolute confidence that you can defeat me. Since that's the case, let me see what level you have reached with the cultivation method of absorbing the blood essence and souls of living creatures. Let me see if you are qualified to defeat me. These words came out of Du Xiaofu's mouth slowly. Along with these words, a purple-gold light burst out from his body. His purple robe fluttered in the wind. The energy between heaven and earth suddenly tightened. In an instant, all of it was plundered and quickly gathered towards Du Xiaofu. Gee! A rock's cry pierced the sky and cracked the earth. The shadow of the golden-winged rock soared into the sky and roared. A vast aura was brewing in this part of the world. It was as if an ancient pressure was spreading and pressing, filling every inch of the space. Du Xiaofu, let me fight you. Dongli Qihuang was about to make his move, but the black-robed man beat him to it. His figure moved and he rushed up. At the same time, a large amount of murderous aura gushed out and covered his entire body. Be careful of Du Xiaofu's strange space technique. Dongli Qihuang didn't stop him. Instead, he reminded him in a deep voice. He had just suffered a loss. Naturally, he didn't want to see his companion repeat the same mistake. Ming Luo, fierce general, rise. The black-robed man let out a deep roar. Countless murderous auras circled around him rapidly. Runes as small as mosquitoes were arranged and combined, drowning him completely. Countless mysterious runes revolved according to a strange trajectory, forming the body of a ferocious ghost that was thousands of feet tall. This was the Ming Luo, fierce general, that the black-robed man mentioned. Roar! The Ming Luo fierce general's face was ferocious. A loud roar came out from his bloody mouth. The roar shook the sky. As he opened his mouth, a thick stench spewed out, bringing with it a terrifying aura that could corrode everything. On the walls of the valley, the essence of all the plants was instantly sucked dry when they encountered this aura. They turned into fine powder and fell down. "Umph, evil ghost, how dare you be so fierce?" Du Xiaofu snorted. The golden wings of the great rock flapped horizontally. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the Ming Luo fierce general. At the same time, Du Xiaofu raised his palm. Golden light burst out and turned into 1,000,000 feet in size. He suddenly clenched his fist in the air. Boom, boom, boom. A thunderbolt as thick as a mountain fell from the sky. It split the night sky and was caught by the golden palm. In the sacred palace, after comprehending the inheritance left by the ancestor, Du Xiaofu had made great progress in the lightning profound. In the field, Du Xiaofu held the thunderbolt tightly. Without the slightest pause, he used it as a long whip and lashed down at the Ming Luo fierce general. The Ming Luo fierce general roared and took a step forward. The heaven and earth trembled. A battle axe as big as a mountain was held in his hand. It fluctuated with the color of blood. A terrifying murderous aura whistled and chopped down at Du Xiaofu's head. Boom! Like a waterfall, the thunderbolt and the blood-colored battle axe collided and instantly bombarded together. Two forces that carried completely opposite auras collided and exploded with an earth-shaking roar. The aura of extreme yang was vast and mighty, and the aura of cold and fierce filled the air. The walls of the valley on both sides of the valley were blasted into a circular gap that was dozens of miles wide. Rubble flew into the sky and shattered the void into countless pieces. Lu Limo, Sun Qin, Ren Yuan, and the other young experts of the human race, along with Han Ji, all retreated to 100 miles away. They looked at this scene with fear and trepidation. Dongli Qihuang also hid in the distance. He did not dare to stay in the center of the battle. What's the background of that black-robed man? He's so fierce and doesn't seem to be inferior to the human emperor. These two people are too terrifying. Everyone discussed animatedly. Han Ji's seductive big eyes were also shining with an inexplicable brilliance. Chapter 25:15. Thump, thump, thump. The black-robed Ming Luo fierce general held the blood-red battle axe in his hand and kept retreating. The void beneath his feet collapsed and was annihilated. Huge footprints were left in the narrow valley below, and countless rocks and trees were turned into dust. Du Xiaofu's body flashed with golden light, and he quickly retreated, avoiding the most direct energy impact. The huge palm formed by Xian Qi had already dissipated. The lightning bolt that was as thick as a mountain directly turned into shattered runes that filled the sky. They danced in the air, flickering indeterminately. The two sides were evenly matched with each other, and there was no clear winner. Du Xiaofu, you can't do anything to me now. A loud voice came from the Ming Luo fierce general. With every word, the void trembled. A ferocious and valiant aura spiraled in the surroundings and reverberated endlessly. You do have some strength, but if that's all, it's far from enough to kill me. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes and said softly. He didn't expect this person's strength to be on par with Dongli Qihuang. Although he didn't use his full strength, there was no doubt that the other party was the same. However, even when facing ancestor Feng San and the Yu clan's old emperor, he didn't back down. At this time, Du Xiaofu couldn't have any fear in his heart. Kill! The Ming Luo fierce general roared, and his roar cut through the void. The blood-red battle axe emitted a glaring scarlet light. If one looked closely, they could see countless resentful spirits struggling and rolling in the blood-red light. Their faces were twisted, and they let out soundless wails. The Ming Luo fierce general rushed forward, and the battle axe in his hand chopped down again. Thunder Martial Vein, rise! Du Xiaofu shouted. He didn't change his move, because thunder and lightning were the nemesis of Yin Qi. Streaks of lightning as thick as chopsticks flashed out of his body, intertwining with each other like meridians in a human body. As if sensing the call of the Thunder Martial Vein, countless thunderclouds instantly gathered high in the sky, churning nonstop. Following that, bolts of lightning condensed into a huge net that covered an area of a few hundred miles, covering the head of the Ming Luo fierce general. Chila. The blood-red battle axe struck the lightning net, and a long and narrow hole was directly cut open. At this moment, the big net finally descended, trapping Ming Luo Xiong's incomparably tall body within. Well, lightning crackled as countless electric tongues slithered around, constantly rubbing against the ruthless aura on the Min Luo fierce general's body and consuming it. Lightning symbols flickered one after another. Roar, trapped, the Ming Luo fierce general roared crazily, the blood-evil battle axe in his hands slashing left and right. Cracks appeared on the lightning net one after another, and its aura gradually dimmed. In the end, when the lightning was extinguished, the aura of the Ming Luo fierce general became much weaker. Time to end this. Du Xiaofu snorted coldly when he saw this. With a thought, the purple gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand. Then, his body shook slightly, and his figure disappeared from the spot again. The ultimate mystery of the golden-winged rock clan was suddenly activated. Be careful! In the distance, Dongli Qihuang shouted, wanting to warn the black-robed man. However, before his voice could be heard, Du Xiaofu had already appeared again. The purple gold heavenly tower was held in his hands, and a terrifying and vast aura fluctuated, causing the void to buzz and tremble. Overbearing sword Wei! A loud shout came from Du Xiaofu's throat, and a simple and unadorned sword slashed down. The sword radiance, which carried a vast and righteous aura, rushed straight out, and the overbearing aura cut through the void, slashing towards the extremely tall figure. Qi! The Ming Luo fierce general raised his battle axe to meet the attack, but it was broken in an instant. The sword radiance turned and slashed directly on his chest. The sharp sword aura burst forth, and instantly cut the Ming Luo fierce general's body from head to toe, into two halves. Then, the dense and mysterious runes were annihilated and shattered, and rushed in all directions. The fiendish aura was destroyed, and countless resentful spirits drifted away, rushing high into the sky and burrowing into the ground to be free. Accompanied by a muffled groan, a slender figure flew out, dragging a long trajectory in the air. On the black-robed man's body, dark red blood splattered, dyeing the sky red. Du Xiaofu's golden rock wings flapped, and he caught up with the black-robed man in 8 steps. The purple gold heavenly tower slashed, and the golden runes swept out, about to cut the black-robed man into 2 halves. Du Xiaofu, don't even think about hurting him. At this moment, Dongli Qihuang had already moved, rushed from the side, and blocked in front of Du Xiaofu. 2 pairs of ghost-like claws tore at Du Xiaofu, and 10 pitch-black marks were scratched out in the void. No one can save him today. Du Xiaofu snorted lightly, and then he executed the Fuyao move again, and his body suddenly disappeared. Dongli Qihuang's sharp claws grabbed empty air, and he turned around in shock, only to see that he had already pounced in front of the black-robed man. Then, a purple-gold palm struck out with a piercingly cold force. The black-robed man wanted to adjust his form in the air to dodge such a strike. However, his speed was not faster than Du Xiaofu, who possessed the golden rock wings. The terrifying force in the palm spewed out, and the black-robed man was hit, and the black robe on his body exploded. A long arrow of blood also flew out from his mouth. Qin Yan. The instant the black-robed man's hood exploded, Du Xiaofu's gaze shot over. That person's handsome appearance naturally entered his line of sight. Just as Du Xiaofu expected, this black-robed man was really an old friend that he was familiar with. This person was the leading disciple of the Profound Talisman sect, Qin Yan. Even though he was somewhat prepared in his heart, Du Xiaofu was still greatly shocked when the truth was placed before him. He himself, including the current desolate country, had a deep relationship with the Profound Talisman sect. Only this Qin Yan was something that Du Xiaofu disliked the most. But then again, because of Zhu Shui and the others, Du Xiaofu had never completely shed all pretenses with him and treated him as a life-and-death enemy. But he did not know that this Profound Talisman sect's eldest disciple, who had always thought himself infallible, actually hated him to such an extent. As expected, It's another acquaintance. Du Xiaofu laughed, and attacked again without hesitation, capturing the heavily injured Chen Yan in his hand as if he was capturing a little chick. Glancing at Dongli Qihuang, who was still in a daze, Du Xiaofu said with a faint smile, "So it's the two of you, no wonder you schemed to kill me together." After pondering for a moment, Du Xiaofu already understood. Even though he didn't have the most direct conflict with Chen Yan, some friction between the two of them had long since caused this proud genius of the past to feel enmity towards Chen Yan. Du Xiaofu lifted Chen Yan's body up, and his tone became gloomy. "I was wondering earlier why the Eastern Flame Crimson Phoenix would come back to life. Now it would seem like all of this is probably related to you, right?" Chapter 25:16. Chen Yan laughed miserably and didn't say anything as he was grabbed by Du Xiaofu by the collar and held in his hand. Chen Yan didn't speak, and his body twisted and struggled with all his might while a deep blood-red glow fluctuated and poured out a strand of force with the intention of struggling free. But strands of lightning erupted from Du Xiaofu's palm and suppressed the baleful aura, causing all of Chen Yan's resistance to seem so powerless and futile. Du Xiaofu. On the other side, the Eastern Flame Crimson Phoenix gnashed her teeth to the point they almost shattered, and her voice was filled with boundless hatred. In the end, she actually started to roar. "Fight me openly if you have the balls. I refuse to believe that I can't kill you." Du Xiaofu couldn't help but laugh with ridicule when he heard this. "You seem to be very aggrieved. If it's really like this, then I'll fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, the energy of lightning gushed out from his palm and set up a strong restriction. Circle after circle of lightning light fluctuated like ropes, binding Chen Yan within it. No matter how he struggled, he was unable to escape the fate of being sealed. "Help me look after him. Don't let him escape." Du Xiaofu tossed casually, and Chen Yan's figure instantly tore through the sky like a shooting star to descend by the side of Lu Limo, Han Ji, and the others who were 50 kilometers away. Han Ji's fine brows knit together, and she seemed to feel that Du Xiaofu's words carried a trace of the nature of an order, so she was slightly displeased. Her red lips opened, yet she didn't say anything in the end, and she just nodded to display her agreement. After he finished doing all this, Du Xiaofu turned around to face the Qi Li and Qi Huang, and his violet robe fluttered without the wind. Golden light enshrouded his body while lightning coiled around his body, causing him to seem like a god that had descended into the mortal world, and he was mighty and extraordinary. "Kill!" Dongli Qihuang shouted in a low voice when he saw this, and he took the initiative to attack. Earlier, Chen Yan had attacked with his full strength and executed the underworld general, yet he still lost to Du Xiaofu, and it was even to the extent that he didn't have much strength to fight back. This caused the Qi Li and Qi Huang to not dare be careless in the slightest. "Nether Bloodlight, Hell's Gate. Open!" With Dongli Qihuang's shout, a strange energy gradually rose up, filling every inch of the surrounding several hundred kilometers. Dark clouds moved across the sky, obscuring the crescent moon and causing the ground below to sink into darkness. Boundless black light suddenly flashed on the ground beneath everyone's feet, followed by clouds of blood-red mist. As soon as this blood mist appeared, it transformed into countless evil spirits and ferocious spirits. It was like the door to the netherworld had been opened, and ferocious beings had broken through the restrictions and intended to wreak havoc in all directions and destroy everything. Those ferocious mouths opened wide, emitting waves of whimpering roars that made one's scalp go numb. "Retreat!" Lu Xiaomao, Ren Yuan, and the number one hero hurriedly retreated, wanting to hide further away. However, the young powerhouses of the human race felt as if their bodies had sunk into a swamp. Some kind of strange, mysterious force entangled their bodies, causing them to feel sticky and difficult to move their feet. Everyone's Xian Qi circulated wildly in their bodies, but it was difficult to break free from the shackles. They could only move their bodies slowly and with great difficulty. Even Du Xiaofu, who was in the center, felt the same way. Those ferocious spirits all bared their fangs and brandished their claws, pouncing towards him. Petty tricks. However, Du Xiaofu only chuckled at this and did not react violently. He was not in a hurry. He raised his hand and several rays of light of different colors swept out from between his eyebrows. Boom, 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 buzz, buzz, buzz. Several bolts of spiritual thunder whistled high into the sky. As soon as they appeared, lightning flashed and roared incessantly, circling above Du Xiaofu. Roar, roar, roar. Countless evil spirits and ferocious spirits, with sharp roars, leaped and pounced. Pairs of sharp claws slashed through the dark void, adding a sense of gloominess to this world. Ferocious spirits and evil spirits should all be suppressed and killed, Du Xiaofu said in a deep voice. As he waved his hand, the golden crow sky-burning thunder above his head bloomed as bright as the sun. A curtain of lightning rained down and enveloped his entire body. The strong and fierce aura was vast and mighty, preventing the ferocious spirits from getting close to him. Then, Du Xiaofu waved his hand again. The heavenly lightning hummed and emitted rays of starlight, spreading out in the sky, releasing a gentle glow. However, this gentleness contained an unparalleled fierce aura. Those ferocious spirits, under the shine of the starlight, became a little dimmer. Those who were not strong enough all held their heads and howled in pain as if they had encountered something terrible. However, the starlight was everywhere. No matter what they did, there was nowhere to escape. This was not the end. Following Du Xiaofu's actions, crackling sounds of thunder and lightning spread out one after another. The heavenly earth-shattering thunder, the 3,000 shocking thunder, the silver net soul-devouring thunder, the soul-annihilating thunder, and the others also displayed their might one after another, each emitting a different aura. These auras were either extremely strong and yang, ferocious and domineering, or pervasive and seeping into the soul. Terrifying power poured out, tearing and killing, cutting the void into countless pieces. For a time, lightning crisscrossed and surged mightily. This area turned into a vast sea of lightning. Du Xiaofu and Dong Liqiuang's figures were both drowned in the lightning and ferocious spirits that filled the sky. With the help of Han Ji, the young experts of the human race had long escaped from the battle. This power is really too terrifying. Brother Rock's strength is too terrifying. If it were me, I would probably be killed in a single exchange, my body and soul destroyed. Everyone shuddered when they saw the terrifying scene. In front of everyone, Qin Yan, whose cultivation was sealed, did not speak. But that handsome face was twitching nonstop at this moment, and the corners of his mouth trembled without end. In the depths of his eyes, there was boundless fear brewing. The powerful cultivation that Du Xiaofu displayed had ultimately crushed his confidence and moved him. However, he still had hope in his heart, because the final outcome was still unknown. As long as he did not see Dong Liqiuang completely defeated, he still held on to hope that Du Xiaofu could be killed. However, in the next moment, these hopes in Qin Yan's heart all turned into a heavy warning, because he saw a purple-robed figure appear from the destroyed area. That figure pushed aside the boiling sky and strode out with large steps. In his hand, he was even carrying the dying Dong Liqiuang. It was like carrying a little chick, just like his previous encounter. At this instant, the last trace of hope in Qin Yan's heart was obliterated. So what if all of you are strong? No matter how cruel and ferocious your tricks and methods are, before I, Du Xiaofu, you'll forever be a stepping stone on my path. These words were spoken by Du Xiaofu, and it carried a peerlessly domineering aura as he tossed Dong Liqiuang to the ground. Poof! A mouthful of blood sprayed from Dong Liqiuang's mouth as he rolled on the ground in pain. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, his grayish-white eyes opened a slit with great difficulty, and deep hatred flashed through them. Du Xiaofu's words seemed to be correct. At the beginning, his strength was entirely capable of taking Du Xiaofu to be an ant, and he could easily crush Du Xiaofu with a single finger. But gradually, that young man from all those years ago rose up like the rising sun, and no one could restrain him any longer. Moreover, everything he possessed was lost step by step during this process, and it was seized away by Qin Yan. In the end, even his life was practically lost at Qin Yan's hands. Even if it was now, he'd painstakingly cultivated with evil techniques and advanced at a godly speed. However, he still seemed to be so powerless before Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu, what qualifications do you have to laugh at us? You're just luckier than us. On the other side, Chen Yan, who'd had his cultivation sealed, laughed bitterly as he spoke fiercely. As soon as he opened his mouth, fresh blood covered his pure white teeth, and it was suffused with dense viciousness. Ha! Du Xiaofu started laughing as well because he was naturally able to discern the unwillingness in Chen Yan's words. But Du Xiaofu couldn't be bothered to explain himself at all. During these past few years, he'd grown step by step, and he'd indeed obtained various fortuitous encounters. However, his current strength was completely built on his own hard work. He'd risked life and death countless times, fought countless times while bathed in blood, and there wasn't the slightest element of trickery. There were actually people who attributed all of this to luck. Perhaps to enemies like Chen Yan, Qi Li, and Qi Huang, they felt that fate played tricks on them and favored one while discriminating against the other, and it was extremely unfair. But no matter how many fortuitous encounters and benefits Du Xiaofu obtained, and no matter how others looked at him, they couldn't completely deny the hard work he'd put in. How do you intend to deal with these two people? Han Ji swayed her waist as she walked forward gracefully, and she asked Du Xiaofu. Her bright and moving eyes flickered with a strange glow. What? You're interested in them? Du Xiaofu's brows raised when he saw this, and he smiled as he spoke. He knew that Han Ji was formed from the incomplete soul of a primeval expert, and she could take the energy of the soul for her own use. On the other hand, the techniques Dongli Qihuang and Chen Yan cultivated were extremely evil. In the dilapidated gorge below, the blood essence and souls of the skeletons that covered the ground had been sucked dry by them. It was unknown exactly how many living beings they'd slaughtered. But one thing was for sure, the souls of these two people were surely evil and terrifyingly strong. To Han Ji, it was definitely a great supplement. If she really wanted it, he really had no reason to refuse. Although this method was rather cruel. However, after Han Ji's eyes flickered, the corners of her small mouth twitched, and she continued Du Xiaofu's words as she teased, "Forget it. Actually, the one I'm most interested in is you." After saying that, she stared straight at the young man in front of her, and the smile at the corner of her mouth carried a trace of playfulness. Du Xiaofu was completely immune to Han Ji's teasing. Naturally, he didn't notice that there was a hint of seriousness mixed in that playfulness. Behind Han Ji, Lu Limo, Ren Yuan, Feng Wucha, and the others all had embarrassed expressions on their faces. Especially Lu Limo, Sun Qin, and Jiang Yiting, they couldn't help but smile bitterly in their hearts. Ever since the Yu family rebelled, Du Xiaofu had killed the Yu family's old emperor in an invincible manner, wiped out the Yu family, and took over the position of the human emperor. From then on, there was an invisible barrier between them and this young man, and it seemed like it could no longer be crossed. A scholar prefers death to humiliation. Du Xiaofu, if you're a man, kill me with a sword. Dongli Qihuang's mouth held a cold smile as he said hatefully, "Don't worry, I'll fulfill your wish as usual." Du Xiaofu's voice was clear, and as he spoke, the purple gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand again. Profound qi surged from the heavenly tower and poured into the sword. The four phantoms of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise shook the sky, and their roars shook the void. A purplish gold sword radiance formed in an instant and slashed down at the neck of the east, leaving Scarlet Phoenix in his hand. At this moment, a look of fear finally appeared in his eyes. Seeing the sword light fall, Dongli Qihuang reluctantly closed his eyes and waited for the judgment of fate. However, just as Du Xiaofu's purple gold heavenly tower was about to cut off Dongli Qihuang's head, an earth-shattering roar came from afar. Roar! This loud roar was like thunder, and it shook the void far away. Then, a monstrous light rushed out, and the body of a beast appeared. In a flash, it appeared beside Du Xiaofu, and it was incomparably fast. "Show mercy!" A furry claw, incomparably huge and covered in golden fur, blocked the sharpness of Du Xiaofu's purple-gold heavenly fault. Clang! It was like the sound of metal and stone colliding, and a series of sparks flew between the sword and the claw. In Du Xiaofu's hand, the purple-gold heavenly tower was shaken up. In an instant, Han Ji, Lu Limo, the #1 hero, and the others all unsheathed their weapons, as if facing a great enemy. However, Du Xiaofu had no intention of pursuing the troublemaker who came out of nowhere. He waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be nervous, and calmly put away his long sword. "Jiangchen, why are you here?" Looking at the giant beast in front of him, Du Xiaofu asked in surprise. The beast's eyes were as red as cinnabar, its body was covered in scales, and its claws were curved like hooks. Its teeth were exposed, like sharp blades, and the smell of blood filled the air. It was Jiangchen's golden growler. Jiangchen seemed to have just arrived. He'd arrived in a hurry and immediately blocked Du Xiaofu's sure-kill sword light. "Long time no see." Jiangchen's golden growler slowly transformed into a man in his 30s. He smiled at Du Xiaofu. "Indeed, long time no see." Du Xiaofu smiled back. The last time Jiangchen appeared was in the Tomb of Eternity. It had been a long time since then. Now that they'd met again, Jiangchen seemed to have grown much stronger. However, Jiangchen still couldn't see through him. "These two are useful to me," said Jiangchen. "I hope you can let them go. I'll owe you a favor." When Du Xiaofu heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly. But then he smiled and casually tossed the Qi Li and Qi Huang to the ground. "Since you asked, I won't ask too much. There's no reason to not let them go." Ever since they'd met, Jiangchen had indeed helped him a lot. The friendship between the two of them was not shallow. No matter the reason, Du Xiaofu would give him face. He was just a bit curious. Did Dongli Qihuang and Xin Yan have some kind of relationship with Jiangchen? However, Jiangchen had always been mysterious and elusive. It made sense that he couldn't talk about his private matters. Chapter 25:17. Actually, I can't quite put my finger on it. I just have a vague feeling that these two are somehow related to me. Jiangchen's gaze swept over Dongli Qihuang and Xin Yan, a hint of confusion on his face. Du Xiaofu nodded. Even Jiangchen himself didn't seem to know Jiangchen's exact identity and origins. Perhaps it really was some sort of vague feeling towards Dongli Qihuang and Chen Yan. That's why he'd hurried over just as they were about to be killed. "I believe you." Du Xiaofu smiled, then fell silent. He saw Jiangchen as a friend and wasn't willing to dig deeper. The conversation between the two of them was heard by everyone. Dongli Qihuang crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. He suddenly realized that he might have escaped another calamity today. The sense of failure in his heart was instantly suppressed by a gratuitous joy. However, the flames of hope that had just been ignited were doused with a bucket of cold water by Shen Yan's next words. "What do you want to do to us?" Shen Yan's gaze was distant as he asked Jiangchen in a low voice, his voice filled with deep fear. They naturally knew of Jiangchen's ferocious reputation. However, they and Dongli Qihuang had no relationship with him. He couldn't possibly help them without reason. If he had ulterior motives, then their fates wouldn't be any better than being killed by Du Xiaofu. "If you don't want to die, then come with me obediently." Jiangchen frowned, glared at Xin Yan, and responded coldly. After that, light surged on his palm, and then a strand of force erupted and struck Xin Yan. After a slight buzzing sound, the enchantment set up by Du Xiaofu was directly lifted. Shen Yan grimaced in pain and straightened his body. "All right, I agree to go with you. As long as I don't die at Du Xiaofu's hands, even if I have to face hell and 10,000 tribulations in the future, I'm willing to endure them." Shen Yan enunciated each word clearly, his expression terrifying. "All right, I also agree to go with you." Hearing these words, Dongli Qihuang also opened his mouth. He turned to look at Du Xiaofu again, his eyes erupting with hatred. "Du Xiaofu, as long as we don't die, there will be a day when I will personally chop off your head." In the face of Dongli Qihuang's provocation, Du Xiaofu sneered and suddenly pushed the purple-gold heavenly tower into the void. With a boom, the tip of the sword seemed to have struck the thick ground, emitting a thunderous sound. Cracks exploded in the void, like a watermelon that was exposed to the scorching sun, bursting open. Du Xiaofu's black hair fluttered in the wind as he fearlessly said, Du Xiaofu, will teach you any time. Jiangchen could only shake his head and smile bitterly at their tit-for-tat. After that, he waved his hand at Du Xiaofu and said, "Thank you for this. I will definitely repay this favor in the future. Won't you come to the desolate nation for a visit?" When he saw that Jiangchen intended to leave, Du Xiaofu urged him to stay. Given Jiangchen's current strength, he couldn't see through him at all. If he was willing to help the desolate nation, then in the upcoming battle against the devil religion, he'd undoubtedly gain a great deal of help. "No, I still have a few things to investigate. I want to know the answer as soon as possible." Jiangchen raised his head slightly and gazed into the distance, somewhat lost in thought. Du Xiaofu had long since expected this answer. He didn't say anything else. He simply cupped his hands at Jiangchen. "Then take care. I hope you'll be able to find out the final result soon." Jiangchen smiled, then opened his hand. Strength swept out, capturing Dongli Qihuang and Xin Yan. He said to Du Xiaofu, "Let's go." With a leap, he disappeared into the void, disappearing without a trace. He'd come quickly and left decisively, without the slightest hesitation. "Was that person just now the zombie you spoke of?" Han Ji strolled over to Du Xiaofu's side and asked softly. Du Xiaofu nodded. "A mysterious and unfathomable fellow. Your relationship doesn't seem ordinary either," Han Ji said with a faint smile. Du Xiaofu nodded again. Then, he turned to Soul Concubine and flashed her 2 rows of shiny teeth. He squeezed out a meaningful and wretched smile. "Actually, our relationship is the real deal." Han Ji was momentarily at a loss for words. She'd actually been taken advantage of in a moment of carelessness. This scene inwardly delighted Du Xiaofu. "Who told you to tease me time and time again? This time, I've finally gotten back some face." However, Du Xiaofu had miscalculated. Han Ji was only slightly stunned for a moment. Then her bright eyes curved and she giggled. She stuck out her 2 pure white breasts and swayed her perky waist as she walked over to Du Xiaofu's side. Then, she gently held Du Xiaofu's arm. Her 2 soft lumps were squeezed until they changed shape and protruded outwards as if they were about to jump out of her lapels. The cleavage also became deeper. Wisps of fragrance burrowed into Du Xiaofu's nose. It was intoxicating. Han Ji's rosy lips moved closer to Du Xiaofu's ear. She gently blew into his ear and said with a smile, "Actually, I feel that our relationship can be even deeper and more extraordinary." This sentence, Du Xiaofu immediately understood. His scalp went numb, and in an instant, all the hair on his body stood on end. This woman was really capable of saying anything. The worst thing was that there was a fucking movement somewhere. This was too fucking disappointing. "Let's hurry up and get going." Du Xiaofu's little mouth trembled. He did not dare to stay any longer. In a flash, he jumped into the distance and fled in panic like a stray dog. Compared to Dongli Qingqing, Sima Muhan, Qi Yishi and the other young girls, this woman in front of him really killed without spilling blood. Looking at Du Xiaofu's embarrassing state, Han Ji covered her mouth and laughed. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and her pair of plump breasts trembled along with it, forming a moving arc. "Little brat, you're still too inexperienced to fight with me." Amidst her laughter, Han Ji also unfolded her body and followed behind Du Xiaofu. Seeing this scene, Ji Qianyue, Ren Yuan, Sun Qin and the other young experts of the human race looked at each other and were speechless for a long time. Lu Mingma let out a long sigh and turned to look at his elder sister. His handsome face was full of seriousness as he said earnestly, "Elder sister, you must have a sense of crisis." Lu Limo was stunned by her brother's baffling words and did not recover for a long time. "Our human emperor is indeed extraordinary to be able to obtain the favor of so many girls." Yao Tianwu opened his mouth and explained in a timely manner. Lu Limo was smart and immediately understood what her brother meant. Her beautiful face could not help but turn red. "Little brat, are you looking for a beating?" Lu Limo raised her eyebrows. This brother of hers was asking her to take the initiative to chase after Du Xiaofu. Although she was reprimanding Lu Mingma, Lu Limo's eyes unconsciously drifted to Sun Qin and Jiang Yiting. It was as if she was asking, "Do you also have a sense of crisis?" Chapter 25:18. Sun Qin and Jiang Yiting blushed under Lu Limo's gaze. Their faces were filled with anger and they almost scolded. "If you want to throw yourself into his arms, then go ahead. Why are you dragging us down with you?" Feng Wuche glanced at the beautiful ladies and rubbed his nose. He stared at them and said, "I think I know something. You guys are confessing. I think we might be single for the rest of our lives if we follow behind the Rock Emperor." Lu Limo's face was filled with sorrow and pain. Ren Yuan, Yao Tianwu, the #1 hero, and the others nodded their heads to express their agreement. They were all outstanding talents of the human tribe. However, they were overshadowed by Du Xiaofu, the new human emperor. The most beautiful women of the human race seemed to have taken a liking to him, and their hearts seemed to have fallen for him. This was too much of a blow to them. Ji Qianyue, who was standing at the side, reached out and ran her fingers through her flowing red hair. Her eyes shone with a strange light. She did not have much contact with Du Xiaofu. Most of her knowledge of him was from hearsay. She did not know what was going on. "Why are you still talking so much? Let's go." Lu Limo straightened her expression and suppressed her emotions as she said in a serious tone. Then her petite body began to move. She transformed into a beautiful shadow and dashed into the distance. Sun Qin and Jiang Yiting also followed closely behind. "At this moment I feel a deep sense of danger." Feng Wuche sighed and said with a bitter smile. After that, everyone did not delay any longer. They all turned into flowing lights and disappeared into the dark sky. For the rest of the time, Du Xiaofu and the rest were not in a hurry to travel. However, on the third day, they finally returned to the land of Kyushu and entered the territory of Ningzhou. The distance to the desolate country could be considered to be very close. The devil religion's actions have become more frequent recently. At the front of the group, Du Xiaofu said with narrowed eyes as he hurried forward. In the past few days, they had encountered several forces of the demonic sect along the way. These people from the devil religion hadn't killed too many people on the surface. However, Du Xiaofu knew that they were only rapidly expanding in the dark to build an even stronger force. When the time was right, it would turn into a sharp blade in the hands of the Fiend Celestial. Under the command of the 9 Fiend Celestial Emperors, it would bring endless blood and misery to this world. All over Kyushu, there should be corresponding forces to deal with the expansion of the devil religion. Soul Concubine pursed her lips and said, "But as long as the devil religion doesn't give up, there will definitely be a large-scale clash." She was now considered a member of Du Xiaofu's faction, so she naturally had a good understanding of the devil religion. Bloodshed is unavoidable because the devil religion won't give up on killing, Du Xiaofu said in a low voice. In the primordial era, the devil religion provoked the dragon phoenix calamity and plunged the entire world into chaos. Countless living beings died in battle. If not for the Du family's ancestors, who were the heavenly Tao, taking action in the end, this world would probably have been controlled by the devil religion. Now that they had made a comeback, it was impossible for them to be merciful. "What do you plan to do next?" Soul Concubine asked. Du Xiaofu pondered for a moment and said, "The devil religion is ferocious, and the Fiend Celestial is incomparably powerful. Only with the power of all living beings in this world can we resist them. However, right now, some forces, including the dragons and the 9 great families, still want to stay out of this. Some are even thinking of cooperating with the devil religion to protect themselves. These forces that have the tendency to collude with the devil religion cannot be allowed to continue acting so wantonly. Otherwise, in the upcoming calamity, not only will they not be able to help the living beings of this world, they might even stab us in the back at any time." "So?" Soul Concubine asked. "So, I plan to visit them one by one. It's best if they're obedient, but if they still refuse to come to their senses, then..." Du Xiaofu's expression became serious. His eyes flashed with purple gold light and murderous aura. "Then I'll have to beat them up one by one. I'll beat them until they're really in pain. Then I'll teach them how to behave in a pleasant manner. If they continue to be stubborn, then we might as well just eliminate them. Since they refuse to contribute to the common people, we can't allow them to become a great threat to this world. Soul Concubine's gaze was gloomy as she looked at Du Xiaofu's resolute profile. His words were filled with unparalleled dominance, and she couldn't help but feel a little dazed. A moment later, Soul Concubine also realized that she had lost her composure. She puffed out her magnificent chest and said with a smile, "If there's anything you need me to do, just tell me. I'm willing to drink blood for you without hesitation." Du Xiaofu was extremely embarrassed when he heard this. But then he nodded seriously. Although Soul Concubine's words contained a hint of teasing, Du Xiaofu knew in his heart that this woman with peerless strength should be sincerely willing to help him now. "We'll reach the desolate country very soon. At that time, with you overseeing the Stone City, I'll be much more at ease." Du Xiaofu said, "You're going to meet those major forces right away?" Soul Concubine asked. Du Xiaofu grunted in acknowledgement. "Let's do it one by one. Let's start with the dragons. The demon god may fully recover at any time. The situation is urgent, and I don't have much time to slowly plan. After these things are settled, there are still many forces in the 3 continents and Kyushu that need to be integrated. We have to do it quickly." As Du Xiaofu spoke, he was thinking about many things in his heart. While organizing the dragons, the 9 great families, and other forces, he had to do his best to find the 36 spiritual thunders and the 9 purple lightning profound cauldrons. In addition, the forces in Tianhuang mainland, the demon world, and other forces had to be integrated step by step. He wanted to eradicate all the internal problems in this world before the demon god fully recovered. At that time, countless living beings would be united and it would be much easier to deal with the devil religion. The final enemy was still the invincible god-fiend in this world. "Your desolate country has a group of country guardian divine envoys. After I go there, shouldn't you also give me a title?" Soul Concubine's lips and teeth opened slightly, and her beautiful eyes flickered with a cunning light. "No problem at all. You can choose any title you want." Du Xiaofu waved his hand and said heroically, "To be able to exchange a title for the help of such an expert, this transaction couldn't be any more worthwhile." However, Soul Concubine's next sentence made Du Xiaofu feel like he had been deceived. "Well, I don't really care about those empty titles. It's just that you, the Rock Emperor, haven't conferred the title of Empress yet, right? Why don't?" Du Xiaofu was so scared that his face turned ashen. He rubbed his forehead helplessly. He had unknowingly fallen into a trap. If he really gave Soul Concubine such a title, wouldn't it mean that he had something to do with her? At that time, wouldn't that tomboy Ouyang Shuang? Thinking of this, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but clamp his legs together. He felt a chill somewhere. Chapter 25:19. Du Xiaofu Desolate Country, Stone City. In the Grand Hall, waves of Imperial Palace dragon chi swirled around, exuding a vast and majestic aura. Du Xiaofu sat at the head of the table. Beside him were Elder Yi, First Uncle, Second Uncle, Murong Yurhua, and the other leaders of the desolate country. In addition, Hun Ji, Feng Wucha, Jiang Yiting, Ren Yuan, and the other experts from the ancient desolate continent were also seated. "Xiaofu, you've just returned and you're in a hurry to go out again?" First Uncle Du Jinwu asked. Du Xiaofu nodded and said, "There are many things that need to be done quickly. We don't have time to waste." "Yes, now that the devil religion is expanding, your father and sacred array child Jin Qingchun have also brought people to various places to deal with various matters. Almost all the experts above the Saint Realm in the desolate country have left. Only Xiaoba, Xiaohuang, Xiaolin, and Shuang are left," Yi Wuming continued. After the tomb of Heavenly Tao opened, the power of the world had surged. With the support of countless resources from the desolate country, his cultivation had reached the master domain level of the martial domain realm. He was not too far away from the Saint Realm. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across First Uncle, Second Uncle, and the others. He realized that they had also reached the domain realm. He couldn't help but feel overjoyed. Send someone to find out where little star went. Once there's a result, inform me immediately. I have to find her as soon as possible and then we can go to the 4 seas dragons together, Du Xiaofu said again. Yi Wuming nodded and said, I'll send someone to do it right away. Other than that, have Xiaolin make a trip to the Tianhuang continent and integrate the desolate leopard and other beasts. In the upcoming war, this force cannot be ignored, Du Xiaofu continued to instruct. At the same time, outside the main hall, 2 young children, a boy, a girl, and a little beast poked their heads out and hid in the dark to eavesdrop. These 3 little guys were none other than Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaohuang, and Du Xiaolin. When Du Xiaofu finished speaking, Du Xiaolin's pair of bright eyes became even more resplendent, and the corner of his mouth raised into a Kylin-like smile. He was in high spirits. Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang, on the other hand, looked at Du Xiaolin hopefully at the same time, and then they each pointed at their noses and silently mouthed to Du Xiaolin, Take me, take me. The little Qilin looked at Du Xiaoba and then looked at Du Xiaohuang. It blinked its big eyes a few times, and its immature little face showed an embarrassed expression. Upon hearing Du Xiaofu's words, second uncle Du Zhixiong asked worriedly, Will little Lin be in danger if he doesn't accompany you to Tianhuang mainland? Don't worry, second uncle. The beasts of Tianhuang mainland respect Qilins to begin with. Now that little Qilin is born, it's something that they have been yearning for since ancient times. Du Xiaofu said, Little Lin definitely won't run into any obstacles this time. Those experts of the beast race have indeed been restricted for too long. Hearing that, Du Zhixiong nodded and said, Those words make sense. Then let little Shuang accompany little Lin, so that she can take care of the little fellow. Of course, Du Xiaofu agreed readily and continued, Let Xiaoba and Xiaohuang, the 2 brats, come along too, so that they don't stay at home and cause trouble. Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang, who were hiding outside the main hall, heard that and were immediately delighted. Dad, I love you to death. Du Xiaohuang waved her little fists and said excitedly. Shoo, Du Xiaoba hurriedly covered her mouth and made a shushing gesture. This scene naturally could not escape Du Xiaofu's perception. Everyone in the main hall also burst into laughter, amused by the children's adorable behavior. However, Du Xiaofu's decision also made Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong and the others feel much more relieved. Although the 3 children were young, each of them had a terrifying cultivation of the Saint Realm. Coupled with little Shuang's accompaniment, as long as they did not encounter experts like the 9 great demon emperors of the devil religion, there would basically be no problems. The dragons are a tough nut to crack. This trip will definitely be a fierce battle. I'll have to trouble Yi Lao to send a message to Yi Piaoling and the 18,000 ancient Jade brothers. Tell them to rush to the 4 seas and meet up with us. Du Xiaofu said. Understood. Yi Wuming nodded. The group continued to discuss matters related to the barren country, the devil religion and other related matters. As for Ji Qianyue, Sun Qin, number 1 hero and a dozen other young experts, Du Xiaofu directly grabbed able-bodied men and arranged a difficult task for them, to guide the cultivation of some of the outstanding children in the barren country. Almost all of the barren country's Saint Realm experts were busy outside and had no time to do this. Now that they had these coolies, it would be a waste not to use them. With the strength of these young experts, it would be more than enough to guide a group of barren country's disciples. However, these people had come out of the ancient wilderness continent to gain experience and seek higher breakthroughs. Du Xiaofu could not let them rot in the barren country forever. After they completed their task, Yi Lao and the others arranged for them to help the barren country deal with the devil religion. As for Hun Ji, Du Xiaofu planned to let her guard the barren country. With her strength not inferior to his, even if the 9 great demon emperors attacked the barren country together, she would be able to resist for a period of time with her own strength. This arrangement also allowed all of the barren country's Saint Realm experts to be free of worries and deal with the devil religion with peace of mind. After half a day, all of the tasks were carefully explained and everyone dispersed. Du Xiaofu went to the courtyard where his mother lived alone and found that she was still in seclusion. However, from the powerful aura that his mother unconsciously emitted when she was cultivating, Du Xiaofu was pleasantly surprised to find that her attainments in talisman Taoism had actually made a terrifying breakthrough. Before his mother had gone into seclusion, he had given her the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique. After reading it, his mother had exclaimed, "Extraordinary," and immediately went into seclusion. He did not expect that after returning from the ancient wilderness fearsome lands, she had made such a terrifying improvement. Not wanting to disturb his mother's cultivation, Du Xiaofu exclaimed in surprise and turned to leave quietly. It seems that our Du family will soon have another Saint Realm talisman master. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself and smiled happily. His mother's breakthrough was also due to the increase in the overall strength of the Du family and the barren country. In the upcoming calamity, they would have more power to protect themselves. This was just as he had hoped. Thinking back, the motivation for his hard work in cultivation was so that his family of 4 could be reunited. Now, all of his efforts were to protect the people behind him. His family, friends, loved ones, and people. There was one similarity between the two. That was, the enemies that Du Xiaofu faced were much stronger than him. Only with enough strength could one shoulder the heavy burden on one's shoulders. The only difference was that Du Xiaofu now had countless helpers and followers. He no longer needed to face everything alone and fight alone. Chapter 25-20. The sea was vast and boundless. A purple-robed young man walked on the waves, his body rising and falling with the waves. He seemed to have become one with the sea. The young man was holding the hand of a 7- or 8-year-old girl. There was a strange mark on the girl's forehead. It flickered with a cold light, appearing a bit demonic. These two people were Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing, who were preparing to head to the dragons. "Dad, should the dragons be hiding under the sea?" Little Xingxing asked Du Xiaofu. Everyone knows that the dragons reside in the 4 seas, but it's probably not so easy for people to find out where their nest is. So, I'm afraid we'll have to investigate a little more. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Then, he turned to look at little Xingxing and asked, "The purest azure dragon bloodline flows in your body. Can you sense the aura of the dragons?" Little Xingxing nodded, then shook her head. "I feel a bit close to this place. I can vaguely sense some things. It's just that this sea is too vast. I really can't confirm the exact location of the dragons." Du Xiaofu nodded, indicating that he understood. Little Xingxing had the azure dragon and vermilion bird bloodlines in her body. She was completely above the dragons and phoenixes. However, the 4 seas were vast and boundless. It was normal that she could only sense some things. At the very least, it was better than Du Xiaofu's feeling of nothing. "Let's go down and take a look. Your uncle Yi Piaoling and the others haven't arrived yet. Why don't we go and scout the way first?" As Du Xiaofu spoke, he dived downwards, bringing little Xingxing with him into the sea. A vast aura rippled from his body, isolating the sea water outside. It was as if they were in a big bubble. "There's a cold, murderous aura deep in the sea," Du Xiaofu said. As the two of them continued to descend, the light became darker and darker. In the sparkling waves, countless corals and seaweeds swayed with the waves. Du Xiaofu felt that the environment in the sea was getting colder and colder. This kind of coldness was different from the pure coldness of frigid snow seal. Instead, it carried the intent of ecstasy and corroding the bones, affecting one's primordial spirit and physical body. If one was not a creature of the sea, even if one had reached the martial emperor realm, one would still be greatly affected. However, with Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing's cultivation, they could completely disregard this kind of cold, fiendish qi. "I'll go find a stronger creature and ask," Little Star said. Du Xiaofu nodded in agreement. The power of his primordial spirit spread out and enveloped an area of tens of thousands of kilometers under the sea. Hee, something interesting is happening 1,000 miles ahead. "Let's go and have a look." Du Xiaofu couldn't help but smile at the feedback he received from the power of his essence soul. After that, the two of them flew off into the distance. Countless fishes, turtles, prawns, and crabs swam past him. Many of them were emitting a hazy glow and were extremely beautiful. However, these creatures were extremely weak and couldn't pose any threat to Du Xiaofu and Little Star at all. Moreover, the aura that the two of them emitted and their incomparably swift speed made them unconsciously fearful. They all hid in the distance and didn't dare to get close. "We're here." In less than half an hour, Du Xiaofu had already brought Little Star to an underwater mountain range. This underwater mountain range stretched for 1,000 miles and was covered in patches of underwater plants. In the depths of the mountain range, there were a few strong underwater creatures gathered. At that moment, the conversation between the creatures had also reached Du Xiaofu and Little Star's ears. "Beilun, hand over Shui Lian and I'll let you go today," a strange creature of the sea tribe said. This creature's words were filled with a strong threat. He had transformed into a human form and looked like a young man in his 30s. It was just that its round head and hairless head looked very strange. What was even more surprising was that his torso was like a cylinder. His 8 arms were wrapped around his neck and were extremely long. They were like tentacles that swayed up and down. "Shifu, don't go too far. At most, we'll fight to the death today," another young man with 2 shells on his head said angrily. He was also in human form. In his right hand, he held a trident that was as tall as a person. It was suffused with a ferocious aura. In his left hand, he was holding the hand of a young woman with sparkling and translucent skin. She was beautiful and charming. Seeing such a 3-headed creature, Little Star couldn't help but open his mouth. "Father, what kind of creatures are these 3? They look too strange." "Hey, that one with a circle of hands under his head should be from the Dead Cow clan, which is what we often call the octopus or the octopus." Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and continued, "The one with 2 tiles on his head must be a shell-type creature. Then, that woman with skin that is so tender that it's almost transparent, what kind of clan is she?" Little Star continued to ask. Du Xiaofu chuckled. "That should be a jellyfish. She's really beautiful. No wonder those 2 men are fighting for her and even look like they want to perish together." As Du Xiaofu and Little Star spoke, they stood not far away from the 3 of them and commented on them. They didn't lower their voices at all and naturally, the other party heard what they said. "Who's the one pointing fingers here? Are you tired of living?" The octopus man called Shifu turned his head and stared at Du Xiaofu and Little Star with his 2 eyes embedded in his bald head. His 8 arms were constantly moving as if he was ready to attack at any time. At the same time, Beilun, who was a shell-type creature, also frowned and looked at Du Xiaofu. Obviously, their pointing and gossiping had provoked public indignation. "How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? I think you're the one who's tired of living." As the Purple Dragon Emperor, Little Star had never been afraid of trouble and instantly rebutted him. If it weren't for Du Xiaofu holding him back, he probably would have punched the octopus into pieces. Humans? Could they be humans? The jellyfish, who had transformed into a ripple, covered her small mouth and her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. "That's right, we are humans," Du Xiaofu said with a smile. "Audacious humans. How dare you come to my sea to behave so atrociously and spout nonsense here? Then, you shall leave your life here." Little Star's words infuriated Shifu, and with a loud roar, it moved. 8 arms shot out, like 8 long whips, toward Du Xiaofu and Little Star. The tyrannical power surged, causing the sea to churn violently and creating a whistling sound at the bottom of the sea. "Be careful!" Beilun saw this and immediately cried out in alarm, reminding Du Xiaofu to dodge. However, Du Xiaofu only frowned and did not make any move to meet the enemy. Shifu was also a beast-revered realm cultivator and could be considered to be not bad. However, this level of cultivation was not enough to catch Sumo's attention. He only felt that this person was too domineering. He wanted to kill him just because of a disagreement. Did he really think that Sumo was a soft persimmon? You overestimate yourself." Little Star snorted coldly. He stood where he was and directly stretched out a small hand toward Shifu. A terrifying force erupted, forming a spiral that twisted Shifu's 8 whips together. Little Xingxing held them in his hands like a hemp rope. Then, Little Xingxing tugged gently, and after a few puff, puff, puff sounds, the 8 arms were cut off. Shi Fu screamed and retreated in a panic. Scarlet blood gushed out and dyed the surrounding seawater a crimson color. This, Bei Luan and Shui Lian looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. That little girl from the human race had crippled Shi Fu with a casual move. This was too terrifying. If you dare to hurt me, my Dead Ox clan will not let you off. Shi Fu roared loudly. A huge octopus appeared, but all of its tentacles had been cut off. He shouted and roared nonstop. At the same time, he unleashed his beast-revered realm cultivation and quickly fled into the distance. The seawater was stirred up with a "hoyalu" sound, causing monstrous waves to rise on the surface of the sea in this area. On the side, Bei Luan and Shui Lian's bodies also swayed along with him. Du Xiaofu did not stop him and allowed him to leave. "Dad, do you want to keep him? I haven't eaten an octopus before. I wonder how it tastes?" Little Star grabbed the 8 huge octopus claws, her big eyes emitting green light. The violently tumbling sea water did not even make her small body tremble. "I haven't eaten it before either. I'll try it when I have the chance." Du Xiaofu smiled and said, "But one may not be enough. Didn't that guy say that he would call the Dead Ox clan to come and kill us? If they really dare to come, we'll take them all. If we can't finish them, we can bring them back for Lil Ba and Lil Huang to have a taste." Little Star nodded and deeply felt that this was a wonderful idea. Shi Fu left in a sorry state, and the boundless waves slowly subsided. Bei Luan and Shui Lian also steadied themselves. Du Xiaofu smiled and cast his gaze over. His smiling face caused the young man and woman of the sea race to shiver. "Which one of you can tell me how to go to the dragons?" Du Xiaofu asked. The purpose of his trip was to enter the dragons, and he did not want to waste too much time here. Furthermore, the cultivations of these people could also be considered to be quite impressive. Therefore, he should be able to obtain some useful information by asking them. "Dragons? You want to go to the dragons?" Bei Luan's body trembled when he heard this. To sea tribe creatures like them, the dragons were a supreme existence. They were terrifyingly powerful and were the kings of the 4 seas. "If you know, please tell me. I thank you in advance." Du Xiaofu said very politely. He was not an arrogant person, and it was impossible for him to attack those 2 for no reason. Seeing that Du Xiaofu was so easy to talk to, Bei Luan also calmed down a little and said, "I've only heard that the dragons reside in the Nirvana Dragon Abyss, but I don't know where the Nirvana Dragon Abyss is. That kind of existence is not something that we can come into contact with." He was clear in his heart that these 2 humans definitely had a great background for them to be associated with the dragon race. The Nirvana Dragon Abyss. Du Xiaofu was silent. When he was in the outside world, he had only heard that the dragons resided in the 4 seas, but he had never heard of the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. The sea was so vast, and he had no idea where to start looking for it on his own. Perhaps he would only be able to obtain the information he wanted from the mouths of those powerful beings. "Father, that arrogant octopus just now might come back. Should we wait here?" Little Xingxing pondered and said. Her meaning was clear. If Shi Fu came back, he would definitely bring a group of powerhouses from the Dead Ox tribe with him and capture them. Presumably, powerful sea creatures would know the location of the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. Du Xiaofu felt that it made sense and felt that this method was very feasible. However, Balin said with fear, "Sir, you'd better leave quickly. Shi Fu is the young genius of the Dead Ox tribe, and he is favored by the half-saint ancestor. Now that he has been crippled, with the vengeful nature of the ancestor, he will surely be furious and even come to deal with you personally." A half-saint ancestor? Du Xiaofu curled up the corners of his mouth. He didn't expect that the Dead Ox tribe was not weak, and they actually had a half-saint powerhouse. If it was an ordinary sea tribe, they would be very afraid of such a powerhouse. Unfortunately, the people who had crippled Shi Fu were the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and the Purple Dragon Emperor, Little Star. If that half-saint octopus really dared to come, it would only end up being sacrificed to the temple of its internal organs. Thinking of this, Du Xiaofu and Little Star couldn't help but feel a little expectant, as if they saw delicious food waving at them. Come. Let's try this 8-legged octopus first. Du Xiaofu took Shifu's 8 tentacles from Little Star. Each of them was as thick as an adult's arm and about 10 meters long. They were incomparably sturdy. I'll go find firewood to start a fire. Little Star was also excited and instantly jumped into the distance. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the ground, and an even more powerful force surged out of his body, repelling all the seawater within 10 meters around him, forming a large space that was enough for him to use his fists and feet. After that, he washed the 8 octopus hands and took out a large cauldron, a grill, seasoning, and other things from his cosmos bag. In a short while, Little Star had already returned, dragging a large pile of seaweed, corals, and other plants, like a small mountain. Little Star used his profound qi to evaporate the water in these plants, turning them into flammable firewood, and quickly started a fire. Du Xiaofu roasted the pot together, his movements skillful. Not long after, bursts of meat fragrance drifted in the small space. It smells so good. Little Star twitched his nose and drooled. Come and try it. Du Xiaofu handed a thin sword to Little Star, on which there was a section of octopus wrist that glowed with oil. The fragrance of the meat was mixed with the smell of cumin and pepper. Little Star took it and began to chew. His eyes narrowed into a line, and he enjoyed it very much. Let me try the taste of the pot. Du Xiaofu picked up a big piece of meat from the big cauldron and threw it into his mouth. After chewing a few times, he let out a "oh" sound and praised, "It's delicious. The texture is really good, it's chewy." Little Star threw down the thin sword, which had been eaten clean of meat, and picked up a piece from the pot. He held it in his hand and called out to Bei Luan and Shui Lian, "Do you want to try it too?" Not far away, Bei Luan and Shui Lian were dumbfounded. Due to the isolation of the seawater, they could not smell the fragrance of the meat. They could only see the 2 humans eating enthusiastically. They knew that these 2 people were very strong, at least in the martial field realm. They were too bold, daring to roast and eat the dead cow clan. "Sir, you'd better leave quickly. If you're too late." Shui Lian did not finish her sentence. There was a hint of anxiousness in her words, but it was easy to understand what she meant. If the old ancestor of the half-saint realm chased them here and happened to see this scene, he would not let them go so easily. At that time, these 2 humans would not be able to leave even if they wanted to. Du Xiaofu swallowed a piece of fragrant roast meat, nodded, and said to Bei Luan and Shui Lian, "That's right, you'd better leave quickly, lest you get into more trouble." These 2 Sea Tribe members seemed to be quite kind, and he did not want to implicate them. So, Bei Luan also spoke. "Don't worry about us, leave quickly. If you don't leave, I'll roast and eat you together," Du Xiaofu said without lifting his eyelids. Bei Luan and Shui Lian trembled in fear at the same time. If it's the seashells, they should be braised with hot peppers. The taste should be pretty good. Little Star casually agreed. The 2 Sea Tribe members were so scared that their faces turned green. They did not dare to delay any longer. They did not even say goodbye and quickly swam away into the distance. Such an outcome made Du Xiaofu and Little Star unable to hold back their laughter. They looked at each other and laughed loudly. "My father is indeed the Demon King. Look at how scared the child is." Little Star teased. "Your father is indeed the Demon King, but you can also be considered a little Demon King." Du Xiaofu retorted. "This name is not bad. I'll use it in the future. It's not inferior to the Purple Dragon Emperor's name." Little Star gladly accepted. The father and daughter pair ate heartily as they bickered. By the time he was almost done eating, a group of people had really come to surround and kill him. There were more than 100 people in this group, and all of them had strange shapes. They were similar to Shifu from before, and all of them had 8 arms under their necks, forming a circle. As soon as they arrived, they saw the large cauldron and grill in front of Du Xiaofu and Little Star, as well as some remaining octopus tentacles. They were instantly enraged. "Audacious humans, you actually dare to injure the younger generation of my clan, and eat my dead cow clan. I'll kill you." At the front, an old man pointed at Du Xiaofu and Little Star and cursed loudly. He was gasping for breath as he spoke, and it was obvious that he was extremely angry. This old man's face was haggard and hairless, and his eye sockets were sunken. He looked extremely like an old monk who was about to die. Beside him, a young man who had lost all his limbs glared angrily, and he wished for nothing more than to kill the two humans with his gaze. Du Xiaofu burped as if he had just noticed the arrival of this group of people. He rubbed his round belly and beamed with joy. Ah, not bad. So many octopus came again. It's enough for our whole family to eat for a long time. Little Star seemed to have eaten too much. She propped herself up from the ground with difficulty, and her little head nodded incessantly. She even casually put away the remaining octopus tentacles into her cosmos bag. Through their perception, the father and daughter also noticed that the old man in the lead was a half-saint expert. Human kid, you're too arrogant. Do you think my sea is a place where you can behave atrociously? The old man was furious, and he immediately charged towards Du Xiaofu. His 8 extremely thick arms waved wildly, and his killing intent soared. His half-saint cultivation erupted, causing the sea to boil, the ground at the bottom of the sea to collapse, and sand to surge. Du Xiaofu stood still and didn't resist. He allowed his body to be entangled by the old man. Kid, die! The old man shouted loudly. The suckers that were the size of millstones on the 8 tentacles emitted dazzling light. The tentacles moved, and boundless force swept out with the intention of mincing Du Xiaofu into pieces. But very quickly, the old man's movements froze. He realized that no matter how much force he exerted, he couldn't move the young human at all. This couldn't help but make him feel greatly alarmed. Saint Realm! The old man exclaimed in horror. He finally realized how terrifying this young man was. Run, it's a Saint Realm expert! The old man exclaimed. He immediately retracted his 8 arms and wanted to escape. Hundreds of Dead Bull clan experts trembled with fear when they heard this. They didn't need to think anymore. They all turned around and wanted to leave. At the same time, a series of muffled sounds rang out, like firecrackers being set off. Plumes of black smoke rose from the buttocks of these people, and quickly dyed the sea water black. While it blurred their vision, it also carried a terrifying killing intent. However, these people's figures had just rushed out for less than 5 feet when they suddenly stopped. Everyone, including the half-saint old man, only felt that the surrounding sea water seemed to have solidified, and they couldn't pass through it at all. Why are you running? Isn't it better to stay and be our food? Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Powerful energy erupted from his body and repelled the polluted sea water around the Dead Bull clan experts. How dare you fart? So disgusting. Little Xingxing pinched his nose and didn't want to go near those people. Du Xiaofu walked to the half-saint old man and asked, "You should know where the Nirvana Dragon Abyss is. Take us there and I'll spare your lives today." He still had important matters to attend to, and he didn't want to waste too much time here. The old man was stunned on the spot. Only now did he truly realize exactly what sort of terrifying figure he'd offended, and he couldn't arouse the slightest thought of resisting or fleeing any longer. Nirvana Dragon Abyss? Faced with Du Xiaofu's question, he was stunned for a long time, and fear appeared in his old eyes. What, you don't want to? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and asked. The old man hurriedly waved his hand and said, My lord, that is the habitat of the dragons. What do you want to do there? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Little Xingxing put on a fierce face and said coldly. The half-saint old man of the Dead Bull clan immediately shrank back in fear. Then he asked suspiciously, My lord, if I take you there, will you really spare us? The old man's legs trembled. Although he was very afraid of the dragons, he didn't have any other choice at the moment. He could only pray that this human would keep his promise. I'll do as I say, Du Xiaofu said. In this regard, the old man could only nod in agreement. Let's go quickly. If you dilly-dally, I'll eat you, Little Xingxing shouted. The old man didn't dare to hesitate any longer. He immediately took the 2 people and swam in a direction. Du Xiaofu didn't make things difficult for the rest of the Dead Bull clan and let them go directly. Chapter 25-21. Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing traveled swiftly under the guidance of the half-saint ancestor of the Death Bull clan. They spent a lot of time traversing millions of miles of sea. Du Xiaofu was shocked to discover that the area of this sea was probably much larger than the entire 3 continents and 9 prefectures combined. There were also countless powerful clans in the sea. Just like the living beings on land, they ruled in all directions. Du Xiaofu didn't want to provoke them rashly. He estimated that Yi Piaoling, Qinggu Yu, and the others should have reached the 4 seas by now. However, he didn't need to wait for them. It was a piece of cake for the 18 celestial guards to find the Nirvana Dragon Abyss with their abilities. Since the 3 of them didn't open a space tunnel to travel, it took them half a day to finally reach a mountain range at the bottom of the sea. When Du Xiaofu probed with the power of soul, he discovered that there was an enormous mountain range a few thousand kilometers ahead. At that moment, the old man from the Death Ox clan also stopped his footsteps. He was unwilling to continue onward. "My lords, there is a canyon in the mountain ahead. I heard that there is an endless canyon there. It is the Nirvana Dragon Abyss, the place where the dragons reside." The elder said respectfully to Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing, "Please forgive me for only being able to send you off here." As he spoke, he secretly glanced at the 2 of them. He looked very cautious, afraid that the 2 saints would be dissatisfied. "Your mission is complete. You can go now." Du Xiaofu waved his hand casually and motioned for the elder to leave. He didn't have any deep enmity with the elder, so he didn't want to make things difficult for him. However, Du Xiaofu's reaction stunned the half-saint elder for a moment. He didn't expect this human youth to let him go so easily. "Why aren't you getting out of here? Do you want to be eaten by us that much?" Little Xingxing glanced at the elder and muttered. Hearing this, the old man seemed to have woken up from a dream and swam into the distance without stopping. However, he did not go too far away. Instead, he hid behind a huge reef hundreds of kilometers away. He hid in the dark and observed Du Xiaofu and the young man with hope. He wanted to see what kind of relationship these 2 humans had with the dragons. This scene naturally couldn't escape the senses of Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing's soul cores. "You're quite curious." The 2 of them merely smiled at this and didn't ask any questions. The dragons are one of the top forces in this world. Their lair is indeed majestic. Du Xiaofu didn't pay any attention to the half-saint old man. In the blink of an eye, he was sizing up the mountain range in the distance with narrowed eyes. That mountain range couldn't be considered to be tall, but there were expanses of strange peaks that protruded out like bamboo shoots after the rain, and they stood towering in row upon row. At the bottom of the gloomy water, one could still see patches of multicolored light blooming, lingering between the mountain range like clouds and mist. Under the cover of countless marine plants, strings of bubbles gurgled out. They were similarly colorful and incomparably gorgeous. From afar, Du Xiaofu and the young man could feel the rich spiritual energy transmitted over. Presumably, if one really cultivated there for a long time and was enveloped by such spiritual energy, one would be able to obtain great benefits. "Let's go. We're not here for sightseeing this time. The dragons won't bring flowers and applause to welcome us. If we can't come to an agreement, we might as well just fight our way in," Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Then, his figure flashed quickly and rushed towards the mountain range with Little Xingxing. The old man of the Dead Ox clan also quietly followed. The 2 of them only spent a few breaths of time to travel thousands of kilometers and reach the depths of the mountain range. When they got close, it was just as the old man of the Dead Ox clan had said. There was a bottomless abyss lying between the countless mountain ranges. This bottomless abyss was thousands of kilometers wide. Looking from above, it was pitch black. Even when the power of the origin spirit was released, it was impossible to find out how deep it was. "Is this the Nirvana Dragon Abyss? I feel that there's a powerful talisman formation protecting this place that prevents the power of the origin spirit from probing." The mark between Little Xingxing's eyebrows flickered as he spoke slowly. "The foundation of the dragons has been accumulating for eons. It's definitely not ordinary. Although this talisman formation hasn't been fully activated, it's still very terrifying. Let's not be too careless." A purple gold light flashed in Du Xiaofu's eyes as he spoke solemnly. Little Xingxing nodded in agreement, but there was no fear in him. "Dad, I'll beat the grass to scare the snake and find out what's going on," Little Xingxing said to Du Xiaofu as a powerful force suddenly erupted from his small body. A vast aura gushed out, and endless light burst out, causing the surrounding mountain ranges to hum and shake. Little Xingxing's action immediately attracted the attention of the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. A loud shout came from the bottomless abyss in front of them. "Who dares to step into the Nirvana Dragon Abyss?" Immediately after, a wave of golden light burst out and lit up the dark abyss. It was magnificent. Accompanied by a resounding dragon roar, an immeasurable dragon body rushed out of the abyss. As the dragon body twisted, it was like an incomparably huge palm stirring the sea. In an instant, the sea within a radius of thousands of kilometers surged with turbulent undercurrents. As the seawater surged, it carried an enormous force that swept out in all directions. Monstrous winds were stirred up on the surface of the sea in this area, surging and howling. A powerful pressure was released from the dragon's roar, causing the half-saint ancestor of the Dead Ox clan, who was hundreds of kilometers behind Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing, to feel his scalp go numb. This was a feeling that came from the depths of his bloodline. It was an innate reverence and fear for higher races, and it had nothing to do with cultivation. "Which clan are you from? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of us, the dragons? Hurry up and get lost, or we'll exterminate your entire clan." A dragon head that was as large as a mountain poked out and moved in front of Du Xiaofu and Little Xingxing. 2 long breaths came out of the dragon's nose, which turned into 2 bubbles that were thousands of meters long and floated away. The dragon's whiskers swayed gently, and the dragon's eyes that were as bright as the sun glared fiercely at the 2 figures that were as tiny as ants in front of him. It seemed that as long as he blew gently, he could sweep the 2 of them to the ends of the earth. The dragons have been the kings of the 4 seas for many years. They are indeed arrogant enough. Du Xiaofu said indifferently. Boundless waves went around him on their own, and his body did not move at all. "You're just a little mixed blood dragon. You're not qualified to talk to me. Get Long Chen Chao out." Little Xingxing took a step forward and placed one hand behind her back as she spoke domineeringly. The mixed blood dragon before her had only just stepped into the beast region realm, so she naturally did not take him seriously. "How dare you? My name is not something a little worm like you can call out." The dragon shouted, unable to restrain his anger at Little Xingxing's words. "Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way." As he spoke, the dragon's body twisted, and he swung his claws at Little Xingxing's head, wanting to smash her into meat paste. "Umph. A mixed blood dragon dares to be presumptuous in front of me." Little Xingxing stood still as she looked at the dragon claw that was swatting down. She did not dodge and only snorted coldly. The words that came out of her mouth gradually became grand and dignified. At the same time, an invisible might erupted from her body. Like a supreme race from the primordial era, it carried a domineering aura and directly suppressed the dragon's beast soul. The dragon let out a panicked roar, and its body suddenly lost control and smashed into the ground at the bottom of the sea with a bang, crushing the mountains and crushing them into powder. The seawater that had been stirred up by the dragon also calmed down under the effect of a mysterious force, and the wind and waves stopped abruptly. "Dragons! You're actually a dragon." The dragon prostrated on the ground and looked at Little Xingxing in horror as it spoke with a trembling voice. He was a dragon to begin with, so he could feel it extremely clearly. That boundless dragon might was even purer and more vast than that of the patriarchs in the clan. It could not be fake. One must know that Little Xingxing's father was the dragon god. That was the ultimate powerhouse of the Azure Dragon clan, and his bloodline completely surpassed all the mixed blood dragons in this world. After a long while, the dragon finally came to his senses and looked at Little Xingxing in disbelief. "Purple Dragon Emperor, you're the Purple Dragon Emperor." At this point, he looked at the purple-robed young man again, and his huge dragon body trembled violently in horror. Since he knew the identity of the Purple Dragon Emperor, Then the background of this purple-robed young man was also obvious. Demon King Du Xiaofu. Huge said with a trembling voice. He himself also had the cultivation of the domain realm and was extremely extraordinary. Naturally, he knew a lot about the dragon's encounters in the outside world. Among them, there was one person that the dragons hated and feared the most. This person was known as the Demon King Du Xiaofu, the barren country's rock emperor, and he had created endless legends in the outside world. Many dragons had died in his hands, causing all the dragons to hate him to the core, and all of them wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible. However, this person's cultivation had advanced rapidly over the years, and he had gathered countless experts around him. It was impossible to kill him. Now, his strength was even more terrifying, and he could compete with patriarch-level figures. With his mere cultivation of the Beast Region realm, he indeed didn't even have the qualifications to be looked at properly. You can't stop me. Let Long Qianshao come out, or I don't mind killing you. Little Xingxing said coldly. The dragon was a little troubled. Under the deterrence of the tyrannical dragon's might, the dragon obediently lay on the ground and lowered his proud head, unable to summon any thoughts of resistance. If he's unwilling to pass on the message, we'll go in ourselves. Let's go. Du Xiaofu said. He had no intention of starting a massacre. After all, in the future war against the devil religion, a domain realm dragon would also add a considerable amount of combat strength. Without further delay, Du Xiaofu turned around and pulled little Xingxing with him. With a leap, he directly jumped into the dark nirvana dragon abyss and disappeared. When the dragon saw this scene, it still lay prostrate on the ground, not daring to move. 50 kilometers away, the half-saint old man who had followed Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing here couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. The chill in his heart was even colder than the boundless seawater that enveloped his body. He didn't dare to think any further. A black light rose from his old body and turned into a huge octopus. It was his true form. The old man's half-saint cultivation erupted. 8 tentacles pierced through the underwater space, burrowed into his body, and escaped this area at the fastest speed possible. The dragon's cultivation was far inferior to his, so it had no idea at all. When the old man appeared again, a day had already passed. Using the spatial passage to travel, he was able to travel 1,000,000 kilometers away extremely quickly, much faster than when he had come. Demon King, it's actually that Demon King Du Xiaofu. The old man's octopus body transformed again, returning to a strange human form. He let out a long sigh of relief, incomparably glad that he'd managed to escape with his life. Even so, there was still lingering fear in his heart. His chest beat like a drum, as if he'd brushed shoulders with the god of death. If Du Xiaofu saw him like this, he wouldn't know whether to be happy or speechless. Was he that scary? Had his infamy already spread throughout the 4 seas? Shifu, you damned brat. Relying on your extraordinary talent, you don't cultivate all day long. All you do is cause trouble for this old man. See how I'll deal with you when we get back. As the old man advanced through the water, he gnashed his teeth, inwardly blaming himself for spoiling Shifu too much all these years. He'd already made up his mind. When they got back, he would definitely confine Shifu. If he didn't reach the Beast Region, he wouldn't be able to take a single step out of the clan. As he cursed viciously, he didn't forget to continue on his way to the Dead Oxen clan. After advancing for another few thousand kilometers, the old man's restless heart finally calmed down. However, before he could sigh, "At least I managed to keep my old life," he heard an indifferent voice not too far away. "Boss, there's a half-saint expert over there. His true form seems to be an octopus. He should know where we're going." Before this voice could finish, the old man saw a group of figures appear in front of him with a swish, 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 swish sound, blocking his path. Taking a closer look, he saw a total of 18 people. Furthermore, they were all men and incomparably young. Judging from their appearances and auras, they were all humans. Terrifying killing intent rippled from their bodies. Just looking at them would cause one to tremble in fear. My lords, this humble one is only passing by. I didn't obstruct you, did I? The old man's voice trembled as he cautiously cupped his fists. His posture was extremely humble. He could clearly sense that the auras of these 18 people were all stronger than his. They were definitely all saints. When these 18 people gathered together, he sighed, "Are saints so worthless?" At the same time, he was incomparably terrified. "Do you know where the dragons are?" Among the 18 people, a black-robed man stepped out. His tone was extremely cold, and his content was straight to the point. There was not a single word of nonsense. Dragons. The half-saint old man was shocked when he heard this. He had just sent the demon king to the dragons. Suddenly, 18 young people appeared. Could it be that there was some relationship between them? However, he did not dare to ask these questions. He could only firmly suppress them in his heart. "If you know, then say it. Don't waste our time." Behind the black-clothed man, another white-robed man with a slender figure and handsome features walked out. My lord, I don't know." The half-saint old man bowed and lowered his head deeply. His eyes evaded as he told a lie. He was already certain that these people must have a deep relationship with the demon king. However, it was not easy to escape from Du Xiaofu's hands. He did not want to get involved in this kind of thing again. However, his heart was beating like a drum. He prayed that his lie would not be seen through by these people. "How dare you lie to us?" Among the 18 people, another robust young man snorted coldly. He walked to the front of the old man and looked at him with a burning gaze. "If you really don't know, then what are you feeling guilty about?" The old man was speechless. He did not expect that they would easily see through him even though he had tried his best to conceal it. However, he could not admit to this matter no matter what. Dragons are incomparably powerful. They are not something that I can come into contact with. "I really don't." The old man silently deliberated and was about to flatly deny it. Unexpectedly, he was suddenly interrupted by the robust young man halfway through his words. "Stop pretending to be pitiful. Take us there." This low shout already carried a bit of icy killing intent. The old man's body suddenly trembled. In the end, he could only nod in panic and helplessness. Tears were about to flow out of his eyes. However, he was secretly complaining in his heart. Du Xiaofu took little Xingxing and the two of them jumped into the Nirvana Dragon Abyss together. As expected, many powerful dragons appeared to stop them, wanting to kill the two of them who had trespassed into the Dragon Abyss. However, under the release of little Xingxing's dragon power, those powerful people were instantly forced to retreat. They did not dare to encroach in the slightest. Of course, there were also some powerful dragons who had retreated far away before coming into contact with Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing. They must have tipped off the dragons. Du Xiaofu did not stop them. Their trip this time was to subdue the dragons in the first place. There was no need to worry too much at all. "Dad, the spirit chi below is so dense. It's much stronger than our desolate country." While descending, little Xingxing could feel the aura surrounding him and could not help but sigh emotionally. The dragons have accumulated an ancient heritage. It is indeed not something that our desolate country, which has only been established for a short decade, can compare to. Du Xiaofu nodded and said, "We have already descended for a long time, but we have not reached the bottom of the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. Needless to say, we must have fallen into a talisman array. Remember to be careful." "Got it." Little Xingxing replied and blinked his big eyes. "No matter how powerful this talisman array is, it shouldn't be able to trap my dad." "Of course." Du Xiaofu said confidently and smiled, ignoring the teasing in little Xingxing's words. As he spoke, his body suddenly emitted a golden light that filled the sky. After that, a huge red-bone horse monkey primordial spirit rushed out from between his brows and occupied the sea. The red-bone horse monkey roared and the sound waves spread out, turning into layers of ripples, causing layers of turbulent currents in the sea. "Reveal yourself." Du Xiaofu bellowed and the essence spirit of the red-bone horse monkey blossomed with a dazzling light, illuminating the dark abyss with incomparable brightness. Golden light filled the surroundings, and in an instant, mysterious runes began to take shape in the surroundings. This talisman array is indeed impressive. Du Xiaofu exclaimed in admiration. These patterns were formed by many talisman runes and moved according to a strange trajectory. It seemed to be messy and disorderly, but it contained all the principles and was hard to grasp. However, with Du Xiaofu's attainments in the talisman Dao, he was able to see through most of it very quickly. When this talisman array is not activated, it is an illusion array that can confuse people's senses and isolate the area that it is protecting, making people unable to detect it. Du Xiaofu analyzed. However, once there is any intense movement, it will activate the mechanism of the killing array. I'm afraid that even an ordinary saint stage cultivator would not be able to escape the fate of being killed. Then what should we do? Little Xingxing asked. Either we use our talisman Dao cultivation to break its principles, or we use brute force to break it. However, I don't have the heart to slowly study it here. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. Then he called out to little Xingxing, "You be careful." Suddenly, the purple gold heavenly tower appeared in his hand. Sword breaks 10,000 miles. These words came out of Du Xiaofu's mouth. The broadsword in his hand was held up with both hands, and he raised it up. Suddenly, the four phantoms of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise appeared. They let out waves of dragon roars, tiger roars, sparrows, and tortoises' cries as they pounced out. A vast aura surged and condensed crazily. It quickly gathered into a dazzling sword light that was as bright as the sun. Such a sword light made Du Xiaofu look like a god. It slashed down at the Nirvana dragon abyss under his feet. The sword light roared and slashed directly on the talisman array below. Boom! A vast sound reverberated in all directions. It was as if thousands of mountains had collapsed, and thousands of waves were roaring. The abyss was trembling, and the seawater was roaring. The entire underwater world seemed to be shaken violently. It trembled incessantly as if it was facing the end of the world. Swish! A long and narrow hole was torn open in the space. It stretched for thousands of miles, and a terrifying aura fluctuated. It was pitch black. The seawater was disturbed by the enormous force. It was as if it had been pushed aside by a giant hand, and it rolled to the sides directly. For a moment, a vacuum zone was formed around Du Xiaofu and Little Star. It all happened in the blink of an eye. When the sword light landed on the patterns of the talisman array, countless patterns flashed with dazzling brilliance. But right after that, amidst the sounds of rustling, they shattered successively and transformed into dense talisman markings that raged through the seawater and swept towards the surroundings. The killing array is coming, Little Star said. Du Xiaofu didn't need to be reminded of this. He didn't think that this attack could completely crack the talisman array that the dragons relied on to guard their clan. When the sword light shattered countless patterns, it also activated most of the remaining power of the talisman array. Countless patterns twisted and combined, and huge golden dragon bodies condensed. Their scarlet eyes were glaring, and there were probably tens of millions of them. It was as if a hornet's nest had been poked. Countless dragon-shaped phantoms charged towards Du Xiaofu and Little Star. The dragon roars were loud and resounded in the abyss, stirring up endless waves. Those pairs of blood-red eyes were filled with terrifying murderous intent. There really are a lot of them. Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed. These dragon bodies were all formed by the talisman array and had powerful offensive power. When the dragons attacked, they would kill fiercely and shatter all obstacles. Today, if they were not careful, they might really fall into the trap and suffer some injuries. Chapter 25-22. With that in mind, Du Xiaofu did not delay. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned the 7 saint puppets. 7 shadows instantly pounced out and attacked the countless dragon shadows. The 7 saint stage puppets were like tigers in a flock of sheep, moving around everywhere. It did not take long for more than a dozen dragon shadows to be annihilated. However, there were too many dragon shadows created by the talisman array, and they were extremely powerful. It was impossible to kill all of them in a short time. The dragon shadows carried an ancient and ferocious aura as they swarmed up and quickly drowned the 7 saint puppets. At the same time, countless dragon shadows also surrounded Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing, gnashing their teeth and looking extremely ferocious. Seeing such a scene, Du Xiaofu's eyelids could not help but twitch. He deeply felt how terrifying this array was. What was even more terrifying was that there were a large number of powerful existences among those dragon shadows. Compared to an ordinary middle-stage Sage Realm cultivator, he wasn't any weaker. Relying on the derivation of the array, extremely powerful dragon shadows would continuously evolve. Even if Du Xiaofu and his daughter were extremely powerful and could protect themselves from too much harm, they would probably be trapped here and be exhausted from dealing with it. However, it was fortunate that their cultivation was exquisite. If it were anyone else, they would probably have been killed by this array. Little Xingxing, the bloodline in your body is pure. Use your dragon's might to suppress them. Du Xiaofu held the purple gold heavenly tower in his hand and said to little Xingxing. Little Xingxing nodded, and the mark between his brows shone brightly. Immediately after, a breathtaking dragon's roar erupted from his mouth and spread out in the sea. A vast pressure spread and filled every inch of space in the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. Those twisting dragon shadows paused under this pressure. Their movements slowed down a lot, and their power weakened a lot. It could be seen that the bloodline of the dragon god was indeed extraordinary. Du Xiaofu didn't hesitate. He raised his sword and attacked. One after another, the dragon shadows were destroyed and turned into golden runes that flew around the seabed. This talisman formation must have been left behind from ancient times. No, I have to completely destroy it before I can escape. Du Xiaofu thought to himself. Even though these dragon shadows were being suppressed, they still retained a huge amount of combat power. After all, they were only evolved from talisman arrays and were not real living beings. The pressure released by Little Star had a limited effect on them. Most importantly, the runes that the dragon shadow had turned into had not been completely destroyed. Instead, they would return to the talisman array and continue to form countless patterns before condensing into the shadows of dragons in an endless stream. This greatly reduced the energy consumption of the array. While thinking, Du Xiaofu's golden scarlet majestic monkey primordial spirit moved. A powerful aura gushed out and turned into a giant phantom of a 5-fingered mountain. Roar! The tremendous roar shook the underwater world. The torrential current surged and receded rapidly, forming a vacuum in the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. The phantom of the mountain expanded violently and spread outwards, wanting to penetrate the talisman array. Seeing this, countless dragon shadows roared and charged forward. They surrounded the scarlet majestic monkey primordial spirit and stopped Du Xiaofu's movement. In an instant, a huge power was added to Du Xiaofu's body, making him feel even more pressured. Break for me! Du Xiaofu's hair danced wildly as he shouted loudly. The scarlet majestic monkey primordial spirit raised its head and roared loudly, breaking the void. The golden light exploded. Under the boundless pressure, it endured the attacks of countless dragon shadows and expanded outward step by step. The further it went, the more difficult it was to move. And when the phantom of the 5-fingered mountain touched the talisman array, it caused countless dragon shadows to roar wildly. Their killing intent became even stronger. The pressure released by Little Star could not suppress them. Du Xiaofu, we dragons have an unfinished feud with you. How dare you barge into the Nirvana Dragon Abyss? Since you've walked right into our trap, then you'll leave your life here today. It was also at this moment that such a voice entered Du Xiaofu and Little Star's ears. With a slight movement of his mind, Du Xiaofu sensed that there were many dragons' auras outside the array. Although his line of sight was blocked by the talisman array, he could still sense that there were some familiar people among them. For example, Long Qianchao. Obviously, the person in charge of the dragons had already received the notice and knew of his arrival. Do you think that a talisman array can really trap me? Long Qianchao, are the dragons still going to be stubborn? Du Xiaofu replied coldly. Don't think that I don't know your purpose in coming to the dragons. You, Du Xiaofu, have killed so many of my dragons. I wish I could turn you into ashes. At this moment, you still want to use my dragons as a knife? You're simply delusional. Outside the talisman array, Long Qianchao snorted coldly. As Du Xiaofu controlled the red-bone horse monkey's primordial spirit, he raised his brows and laughed instead of getting angry. The dragons have repeatedly violated me. So what if I kill them? You only have yourselves to blame. Similarly, if you're strong enough, I, Du Xiaofu, would have died more than 100 times. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he did not hear Long Qianchao's reply for a long time. He was probably extremely angry. After a long time, Long Qianchao said indifferently, "Kid, you'd better enjoy the might of the primordial nirvana dragon formation. Today, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Your arrogance will also end here." "Is that so? Watch carefully," Du Xiaofu said in a low voice. "Father, don't waste words with them. Let's break the talisman array first, then we'll settle the score with them." On the other side, Little Star waved his palm and destroyed dozens of dragon shadows, causing them to scatter in the air. Du Xiaofu nodded and slowly closed his eyes. While maintaining the illusion of the five-finger mountain, a bolt of lightning suddenly lit up between his eyebrows. Then, the silver net soul-devouring thunder, earth-shattering thunder, golden crow sky-burning thunder, and other spiritual thunders rushed out and swept in all directions. Thunder rumbling 8 desolates. These words came out of Du Xiaofu's mouth. Under the control of his mind, several spiritual thunders began to sweep wildly, carrying with them sharp whistling sounds, piercing the air and tearing the void apart. Boom! Crack! Crack! The bottom of the sea shook violently. Several spiritual thunders shone brightly, and the lightning that filled the sky raged out, opening into colorful lightning bolts that contained unparalleled power and struck down. Lightning surged wildly and filled the entire space. It was as if a string of fiery cannons had exploded, causing endless rumbling noises to ring out. Bolts of lightning poured down, striking the dragon shadows and causing violent explosions, causing them to shatter in the blink of an eye. They didn't even have the chance to turn back into talisman patterns and return to the array to evolve again. Under such ferocious power, all the obstacles were smashed into nothingness in an instant. This was the profound meaning of thunder that Du Xiaofu had comprehended. The ancestor of the Du family had once transcended the mortal realm with the profound meaning of thunder. In the end, he even surpassed the Heaven Sage realm and integrated the way of heaven. After Du Xiaofu meditated in the sacred palace, he had a deeper understanding of thunder and lightning. The vast thunder and lightning surged with the heavenly might, as if a god was angry, as if the demon king was roaring. A terrifying aura swept across, wrapping everything in it. The bottom of the sea was trembling, and torrents were surging. In the area above the Nirvana Dragon Abyss, it was as if a tsunami had arrived. Wind and waves filled the sky, covering the sky and sweeping everything away. It was extremely frightening. Countless sea creatures were frightened out of their wits, and they fled in panic. Thunder Meridian opening, rise. In the Nirvana Dragon Abyss, Du Xiaofu shouted again. As his voice fell, vein-like patterns appeared on the surface of his body, crisscrossing. These patterns shone with a blinding light. They flickered with crackling sounds of thunder and lightning, releasing an overflowing might. With the help of the Thunder Meridian, the 3,000th thunder quaking thunder, the Great Een celestial thunder, and so on instantly erupted with an even more ferocious aura. For a time, the sky was filled with thunder and lightning, rushing back and forth like roaring rivers, shuttling back and forth among the countless dragon shadows. Woo! Under the constant attack of the thunder, the divine dragon shadows let out mournful cries and were quickly destroyed. Du Xiaofu's origin spirit of the red-bone horse monkey was also closer to the patterns on the outer layer of the array. As long as he could break out, he would be able to escape from the array. This scoundrel's methods are so terrifying that even the Nirvana Dragon array seems to be unable to trap him. Outside the array, Long Qianchao and the others watched this scene in disbelief. It was obvious that if Du Xiaofu was allowed to continue like this, He would break out of the array sooner or later. No, we can't let this kid continue like this. Long Qianchao's face was solemn as he ordered the dragons behind him in a deep voice, "Open the gate of life. A few saints will enter the array with me and take out the dragon abyss talismans to protect yourselves from being attacked by the array." After he finished speaking, he flipped his wrist, and a few ancient pebbles appeared. He distributed them to the people behind him and kept one for himself. Then, a few dragons used their cultivation and released a torrential secret force to open a gap in the array. Kill Du Xiaofu while he's busy. We can't let him continue to run wild. Long Qianchao led the 3 Saint Realm experts in a flash and charged aggressively toward Du Xiaofu. Because of the dragon abyss talismans, when the 4 of them entered the array, countless golden dragon phantoms seemed to have received instructions and avoided attacking them. "You want to hurt my father? Do you really think I'm not here?" When little Xingxing saw this, he didn't hesitate at all. His eyes were filled with golden flames and exploded with brilliant golden light. His petite body expanded and turned into a huge dragon in the sky. He spread his wings like a phoenix's and spread red-purple flames. Starlight flowed on the surface of his body, and the aura of the great golden-winged rock and a terrifying supreme aura swept out in all directions. "Get out of here!" Little Xingxing's main body rose into the sky and filled with heavenly might. His golden dragon eyes were filled with golden flames as if they contained 2 vast golden seas of fire. A frightening and strange pressure descended upon this space from within his body. In an instant, Long Qianchao and the 3 Saint Realm experts of the Dragon Clan felt their bodies tremble for no reason. Their beast souls could not help but palpitate. The power in their bodies went out of control as a sense of weakness spread through them. What a terrifying pressure! What kind of dragon is this? A dragon's expert said with a trembling voice. His eyes flickered with endless fear as he looked at little Xingxing's main body. They were all dragons, but compared to little Xingxing's bloodline, they could only be called mixed-blood dragons. When facing the descendant of the dragon god, they couldn't help but feel reverence and prostration. Stabilize the beast souls and resist this pressure. The 3 of you restrain her. I'll go and kill that brat Du Xiaofu. Long Qianchao suppressed the fear that came from the depths of his soul and ordered the 3 people behind him. Yes. The 3 saints nodded one after another. They circulated their powerful cultivation and gradually calmed down. They charged out together and blocked little Xingxing. Immediately, a great battle erupted. Little Xingxing flapped his wings and attacked like a terrifying lord. He carried a ferocious aura and fought 3 saints alone. In terms of cultivation, the 3 of them weren't inferior to little Xingxing. However, due to the suppression of their bloodlines, even if they worked together, they could only delay little Xingxing and prevent him from rescuing Du Xiaofu. "Brat, it's time for your life to end." Long Qianchao flew through the talisman array with murderous intent. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Du Xiaofu. At the same time, he waved his palm and condensed a dazzling golden light. It turned into a huge dragon claw and clawed at Du Xiaofu. "How dare a loser like you try to be fierce?" Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. With a single thought, the soul-destroying godly thunder responded to his summons and let out an ear-piercing shriek. A long tail of light trailed behind it like a river of lightning, blocking Long Qianchao's dragon claw before it could land. Chi! Chi chi chi! The lightning and dragon claw collided, emitting a teeth-numbing sound. The lightning was torn apart by the dragon claw, and the dragon claw was destroyed by the lightning. Terrifying energy waves swept out and shattered the countless golden dragon shadows in the surroundings. They dissipated into nothingness. Berserk dragon rises from the abyss, roar. Long Qianchao withdrew his palm and let out a loud roar that shook the 4 seas. His body quickly transformed into the infinite dragon body. As he twisted and rolled, the space hummed and trembled. On the cliffs on both sides of the Nirvana dragon abyss, huge rocks shattered and fell into the bottomless abyss. 3,000 quaking thunders kill. Du Xiaofu shouted in a low voice and summoned another 3,000 quaking thunders. Together with the soul annihilation thunder, They rolled out endless lightning and crushed toward Long Qianchao. Boom 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 boom. The divine thunder roared and the dragon roared as a terrifying collision broke out. Under Du Xiaofu's control, the two bolts of lightning were like two magnificent ribbons that bloomed with different colors and wrapped around Long Qianchao's body. A terrifying aura of destruction spread and surged in the Nirvana Dragon Abyss. It was as terrifying as a battle between gods and demons. With Du Xiaofu's current strength, he could trap Long Qianchao with just the two bolts of lightning. He couldn't pose a threat to him at all. However, after losing the suppression of the two bolts of spiritual lightning, Du Xiaofu also divided his attention. Under the weakening of the two bolts of spiritual lightning, the pressure on the talisman formation was greatly reduced. Immediately, even more golden dragon silhouettes appeared. They danced in the air and attacked Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing with all their might. Du Xiaofu, no matter how many tricks you have, you can't escape death today. Long Qianchao, who was trapped by the two bolts of lightning, let out a loud roar with endless dragon might. However, compared to the pressure released by little Xingxing, it was a little insignificant. As he roared, the countless golden dragons in the talisman array seemed to be guided and began to converge. Chapter 25-23. Long Qianchao possessed the Dragon Abyss talisman and could control the primordial Nirvana dragon formation to a certain extent. Countless golden dragon phantoms responded to his summons and roared into action, gathering around Long Qianchao's massive body. Along the way, the golden dragon phantoms disintegrated and turned into talisman runes that blotted out the sky. These runes then bolstered Long Qianchao's body, forming a golden dragon phantom the size of a mountain ridge that lay in the air. Long Qianchao's body was more than twice as large as its initial form. Nirvana dragon swallows the sky. Long Qianchao let out such a loud shout. As the huge dragon twisted its body, the golden dragon around it also moved. Roar! The golden dragon phantom roared, opening its mouth like a bottomless black hole. It was terrifying and intimidating. As the dragon's roar fell, the space within the talisman formation collapsed as if the backbone of the earth had suddenly snapped. An incomparably strong suction force surged from the dragon's mouth as if to swallow everything. A terrifying might surged in this space, shattering the countless dragon phantoms that the talisman formation had conjured and sucked them in. Little Star and the three Saint Realm experts in the midst of a great battle shuddered at the same time. Even though they were very far away, they could still feel the tremendous tearing force invading every inch of their flesh. Du Xiaofu, who was at the center of the force, bore the brunt of the pressure. He divided his attention to control the Scarlet Horse Monkey's nascent spirit and several bolts of spirit lightning at the same time to defend against Long Qianchao's attack. Faced with such a terrifying might, he seemed to be powerless. Du Xiaofu, hand over your life. A deafening roar came from Long Qianchao's body. The golden dragon phantom lifted its head and swooped down at his command, swallowing Du Xiaofu whole before he could even resist. In the end, he entered Long Qianchao's mouth. After Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared, the Scarlet Horse Monkey's nascent spirit in the Nirvana Dragon Abyss lost control and dissipated as well. Only a few bolts of spirit lightning were left outside, still whining and releasing lightning that filled the sky. At this moment, even more dragons had gathered outside the talisman formation. When they saw that Du Xiaofu had been swallowed by Long Qianchao like a whale, their faces relaxed and they all laughed heartily. The dragons of our Nirvana Dragon Abyss is not a place where a little thief can do as he pleases. No matter how powerful this Du Xiaofu is, he can forget about breaking the Nirvana Primordial Nirvana Dragon Formation. Patriarch, with the help of the Primordial Nirvana Dragon Formation, killing him is as easy as flipping over your hand. That's right, that this kid is. Everyone was in the Nilva. NN Qianchao. God Dragon Du Xiaofu being swallowed into the dragon's stomach also made the distant little star feel anxious. His dragon body swept across, its wings flapped, and its tail lashed out, forcing the three dragon Saint Realm powerhouses to retreat. Then, it charged in Long Qianchao's direction. Little thing, where do you think you're going? You want to rescue that thief Du Xiaofu? Have you asked for our permission? The three dragons waved their palms and transformed into their true forms to block Star NN's Nilva Dragon Abyss. The three dragons' true forms hovered in the air and roared with their heads held high, enveloped in a monstrous aura. Get lost. Star NN's Nilva Dragon Abyss roared. Lightning shot out from its claws and blocked the three saints. At the same time, a hazy golden light bloomed from its body and gathered on its wings. A bird's cry broke out. This was the great golden-winged rock clan's ultimate skill. It increased its speed greatly and broke away from the three's encirclement in the blink of an eye. Soon, the Nilva Dragon Abyss was in front of Long Qianchao. It swept its wings and endless flames spread out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the Vermilion Bird clan's ultimate skill was unleashed. Raging flames covered the sky and swept across the land. The terrifying heat invaded and burned the air red like metal, as if it was going to melt. The golden dragon shadow around Long Qianchao was quickly being consumed by the terrifying temperature. The talisman runes melted into liquid form and flowed along the void. Then they evaporated and disappeared into nothingness. If we were in the outside world, I would be somewhat afraid of you. But in this primordial nirvana dragon formation, even Du Xiaofu can't do anything to me. How dare a little bastard like you act so presumptuously in front of me? Long Qianchao opened his mouth and glared at Little Star. Even if you have an extraordinary background, don't think that I won't dare to kill you. As Long Qianchao roared, golden dragon phantoms danced within the immemorial nirvana dragon formation like locusts that filled the sky. Countless dragons twisted their bodies and continued to converge on Long Qianchao, causing the giant dragon around him to become even more majestic. Even the terrifying power of Little Star could not stop this amplification. Today, I will send you and your daughter on your way. Long Qianchao roared. His dragon tail swiftly swung, carrying a tremendous power. It suddenly struck Little Xingxing's body. Boom! The violent collision was like the sound of heavenly thunder. The blazing flames on Little Star's wings were extinguished. Her body, which did not appear huge, was sent flying with one blow. Outside the talisman formation, a group of dragons experts watched and discussed. Everyone could not help but feel extremely pleased when Little Star was repelled. So what if she's the daughter of the dragon god? She wants to order us dragons around just because she has an extraordinary background? Simply wishful thinking. That's right. Today, we'll kill this little thing and Du Xiaofu together. I don't believe that the dragon god can really do anything to us. It's indeed terrifying enough. Little Star hurriedly retreated, unwilling to meet force with force. Long Qianchao, who was supported by the primordial nirvana dragon formation, was incomparably terrifying. In this place, his strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Little Star could not contend with him. Kill! Long Qianchao roared again and controlled the enormous golden dragon phantom to follow Little Star, wanting to take the opportunity to tear her to pieces. At the same time, the three sage stage experts of the dragons caught up and began to surround Little Star again. Long Qianchao's 4 strong claws were wide open, tearing open wounds in the void as he advanced rapidly. However, just as he was halfway through, his body suddenly shook and he cursed fiercely, "Damn it!" However, on its huge body, there were suddenly streaks of purple gold light that lit up one after another. These streaks of light were only as thick as an ordinary person's finger and released the divine power of thunder. Streaks of light shone and covered Long Qianchao's body like meandering meridians, making him look like he was covered by a large net of thunder. This scene was exactly the same as when Du Xiaofu summoned the Thunder Martial Vein earlier. Damn it! Damn it! Long Qianchao cursed and stopped chasing Little Xingxing. Majestic energy circulated in his body, trying to suppress the power of the thunder. Needless to say, it was definitely caused by Du Xiaofu, who he had swallowed earlier. At this moment, he could only rely on his own strength to suppress it. If he borrowed the power of the primordial nirvana dragon formation, he would probably be severely injured. However, with his strength, how could he compare to the current Du Xiaofu? Before long, the lightning on Long Qianchao's body surged and shot into the 9 heavens. With a series of muffled puff 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 sounds, its huge dragon body was directly torn apart, creating a terrifying gash as dragon blood madly gushed out. Amidst the ripples of lightning, a figure bathed in thunder charged out of the gash. It was Du Xiaofu. He gripped the purple-gold heavenly tower tightly in his hand. His purple robes were stained with golden dragon blood and fluttered behind him, making him look like a terrifying Azura from hell. Long Qianchao retreated hurriedly, distancing himself from Du Xiaofu. At this moment, he had already returned to his human form. His clothes were tattered and he looked extremely wretched. His head and hands, which were exposed outside of his robe, were covered with dense cracks, making him look like a broken but unbreakable porcelain. He looked like he had suffered extreme injuries. "Father!" On the other side, little Xingxing was overjoyed to see that Du Xiaofu was unharmed. He finally relaxed and focused on fighting the 3 Saint Stage dragons. "Long Qianchao, you're still far from being able to kill me, Du Xiaofu." Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by lightning as he looked coldly at Long Qianchao. However, he did not take advantage of the other party's heavy injuries to kill him. His gaze was cast towards the talisman formation outside. How is this possible? The patriarch is heavily injured. At this moment, everyone outside the talisman formation was looking at this scene in shock. However, when Du Xiaofu's gaze shifted to the talisman formation, these people finally panicked. "Oh no, this little thief still wants to break the talisman formation. Quickly send someone in, we can't let him succeed," an elder from the Dragon Clan said, and many other experts moved in response. However, it was already too late. Within the talisman formation, Du Xiaofu stepped into the air, and the scarlet horse monkey's primordial spirit rushed out from between his brows again. The 5-finger mountain appeared and expanded rapidly, instantly filling the entire talisman formation space. The majestic primordial spirit power surged and directly impacted the formation's runes outside the talisman formation. An ear-piercing buzzing sound pierced everyone's eardrums and lasted for a long time. The 5-finger mountain continued to expand and penetrated the formation's runes bit by bit. "Oh no, the talisman formation is about to break. Once he enters, the dragons won't be able to rest in peace. Let's block him first and quickly ask the patriarch to come out of seclusion," shouted a dragon's expert. As he gave the order, he led many experts to charge towards the talisman formation in an attempt to stop Du Xiaofu. Although Long Qianchao was heavily injured in the talisman formation, he would not watch Du Xiaofu break the formation and leave without doing anything. With a flip of his wrist, he took out the Dragon Abyss talisman. Then, under the circulation of a mysterious force, the primordial Nirvana dragon formation transformed into countless golden dragon phantoms and gathered towards him. Not long after, another huge dragon form condensed and carried a terrifying might as it pounced towards Du Xiaofu. The huge dragon opened its mouth and spat out a dragon's breath. The terrifying aura was vast and mighty, and the space was pierced through. However, this terrifying dragon's breath did not hit Du Xiaofu. This was because his body had suddenly disappeared from where he was standing. Chapter 25-24. Inside the talisman array, the golden light of the redbone horse monkey's essence soul retracted, and the phantom of the 5-finger mountain also dissipated. Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. The giant dragon phantom's attack missed. Only then did Long Qianchao react. He turned around in shock and saw that the purple-robed youth's figure had already gone outside the talisman array. "Damn it!" Long Qianchao cursed. He did not dare to hesitate any longer and also rushed out of the talisman array. The 3 Saint Stage dragons who were still fighting with little Xingxing also stopped fighting and retreated. The 3 of them looked at each other. Now that the array was broken, Du Xiaofu had already entered the dragons, and it would probably cause great waves. For a moment, the 3 of them did not know whether to stay and continue to deal with little Xingxing or go out to fight Du Xiaofu together. "Old thing, don't block the way." Just as they were hesitating, little Xingxing's cold shout sounded in their ears. The dragon's main body let out a roar that shook the void. A terrifying pressure spread, and the three Saint Stage experts were caught off guard. They suddenly felt their legs go weak and almost fell down. They circulated the power in their bodies and suppressed the trembling of their essence souls. Seeing little Xingxing charge over, the three of them hurriedly attacked and blocked together. In an instant, the four of them fought again. At this time, outside the talisman array, a group of dragons experts surrounded Du Xiaofu, who had barged into the clan. They were extremely nervous and ready for battle. Du Xiaofu, what do you want? A hale and hearty old man with a white beard faced Du Xiaofu and took a step forward to ask sternly. Du Xiaofu raised his eyelids and glanced at the old man indifferently. He did not say anything but turned to look at the primordial Nirvana dragon array behind him. He used the Redbone Horse Monkey's essence soul to break through all talisman arrays and escaped from it. However, Little Star was still inside, facing the joint attack of the three Sage Stage powerhouses. With Little Xingxing's strength, even if he couldn't defeat his opponents, it would be more than enough for him to protect himself. Fortunately, the immemorial Nirvana Dragon formation's energy had been greatly depleted during his continuous battles with Long Qianchao. Its might had been weakened by more than half. Otherwise, even if he possessed the Redbone Horse Monkey primordial spirit, it would be very difficult for him to escape so quickly. Under such circumstances, there was no doubt that Little Star would win. It shouldn't take long for him to defeat the three of them. This made Du Xiaofu feel slightly relieved. Du Xiaofu, do you really think that we dragons are pushovers? Do you really think that you can do whatever you want here? Just as Du Xiaofu turned around, he saw the brilliance of the formation flash and a miserable figure leapt out. It was Long Qianchao. The injuries that were as dense as meridians were still on his body. Fine lines crisscrossed, making him look like he would shatter at any moment. His dragon eyes glared hatefully at Du Xiaofu. It was frightening. I'm not here to seek revenge. If there was a grudge, I would usually take it on the spot. Du Xiaofu snorted coldly. However, he didn't answer Long Qianchao. Instead, he continued the words of the old man from before with an expression that said it was only right. However, these words directly poked at the sore spot of the dragons. They were almost angered to death. The old man who had reprimanded Du Xiaofu earlier had his white beard curled up and was about to fly up. Everyone knew that Du Xiaofu and the dragons had always had a tense relationship. It was almost to the point where they wouldn't rest until one of them was dead. Many young elites of the dragons had died at his hands. Many experts of the older generation had also been killed by him. This kind of hatred could not be washed away even with all the water in the world. However, at the same time that these people felt hatred, they also felt deep regret and helplessness. They regretted provoking this demon king from the very beginning. They should not have underestimated him and formed a blood feud with him. However, now that they had fallen to such a state, there was no room for regret. They could only brace themselves and fight to the death. No matter why you've barged into my dragons today, we dragons do not welcome you. Long Qianchao gritted his teeth and said word by word, I admit that you are indeed powerful. However, you must know that this is not the outside world. This is the dragons. We will not tolerate your arrogance. Long Qianchao, who's the arrogant one here? To tell you the truth, if it weren't for the fact that you dragons still have some use and have some relationship with the dragon god, I wouldn't mind bringing people here to wipe you dragons from this world without leaving a single trace. Du Xiaofu snorted coldly. His aura was awe-inspiring. You must believe that the current me has the strength to do so. As soon as he said this, all the dragons felt a chill run down their spines. His words carried a terrifying and arrogant threat. However, most of the people present knew that this was not a threat to Du Xiaofu. Just as he had said, he really could do it. The current barren country had already become extremely powerful. They had dozens of Saint Realm experts. Furthermore, there were more and more people who were improving and could break through at any time. Disregarding the desolate country, Du Xiaofu also had a wide range of personal connections. The Golden Winged Rock Clan, the Fong Clan, the Taoist Clan, the Confucian Clan, the school of Farmer, the Mahist clan, the Phoenix clan, the Inyang clan, the ancient heavenly sect, the mysterious talisman sect. In addition, there were also the human clan and the beast alliance in the ancient wilderness fearsome ground. If Du Xiaofu really wanted to exterminate the dragons, all he needed to do was call out and countless powerful people would respond and raise their armies to attack. It was true that the dragons were powerful, but it was impossible for them to fight against so many powerful forces alone. In the end, they would only be annihilated. It was only at this moment that Long Qianchao and the rest realized that Du Xiaofu's arrogance did have a basis. Everyone stared blankly at Du Xiaofu and did not say anything for a long time. After a long time, Long Qianchao slowly shook off his anger and shock. He naturally knew that the purpose of Du Xiaofu's trip was to subdue them so that they could work for him in the upcoming great calamity of the devil religion. Facing Du Xiaofu, Long Qianchao gritted his teeth and said, "We dragons have been passed down from the primordial age and will never listen to you, Du Xiaofu. I advise you to give up on this idea while it's still early." The dragons had their own considerations and would not compromise so easily just because of Du Xiaofu's words or because of that mutated dragon with the bloodline of the dragon god. Who do you think you are, Long Qianchao? Based on your position in the dragons, do you think you can make the decision? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows when he heard that. Back in the Eternal Tomb, the dragons also had a powerful person who returned alive. Let him come out and talk. I know that the dragons have a deep foundation and should have some extremely powerful people in seclusion. Let them come out and talk. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.